The food is ready, Elizabeth, thank you so much. I'll enjoy this meal. Please eat a lot. We even have your favorite cheesecake today. Thanks a lot for everything. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm 30 years old. I've been married to my husband, Tom, for 5 years. We get along well and enjoy spending time together. I don't have any problems with my mother-in-law, Anna, which is rare in a marriage, and I have a good relationship with her. Anna lives alone now. My father-in-law, Simon, passed away 3 years ago from an illness. After Simon died, Tom wanted to live with Anna, but I didn't want to. I liked Anna, but I didn't think living together would be a good idea. It might cause stress, and I thought it could hurt our relationship. So, I talked to Tom and suggested we buy a house near Anna instead. He agreed, and now we visit Anna every weekend. She seems happy when we visit and always greets us with a smile. Our marriage is going well, but there's one thing that worries me, Tom's income. Both Tom and I work full-time, but I earn almost twice as much as he does. I work at an IT company, so my salary was already high, and I recently got a promotion, which raised my pay even more. I think I'm paid well compared to my coworkers. Tom works at a small company, but it's not doing well, so his salary is low. He's careful with money and doesn't spend much, so it's not a big problem, but I still worry a bit about our finances if we want to have kids. Tom works really hard, though, so it's hard for me to talk to him about this. I hope to get another promotion so I can help support the family more. One day, I finished work earlier than usual and came home in the evening. When I unlocked the door and went inside, I heard Tom talking on the phone. Normally, I don't listen in on his calls, but I felt a little suspicious, so I tried not to be obvious and quietly listened. I overheard Tom saying this. "Don't worry, Elizabeth doesn't know. I checked my savings, and there's a lot of money saved up now. Things are going well with the person you introduced me to, Mom. Yeah, now I just need to decide when I'll ask her for a divorce." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Savings? Divorce? What is Tom talking about? And who is the person he's talking about? It sounded like he was talking to Anna. What have they planned? I was in shock and didn't know what to think. I quietly left the house and went to a nearby cafe to clear my mind. Tom was talking about divorcing me. Did that mean he was seeing another woman? And what did he mean by savings? I knew Tom didn't make much money, so could he have been lying this whole time? I couldn't stop thinking about all of this at once. I drank some coffee to help clear my head, then got a pen and paper to organize my thoughts. I started to wonder if Tom and Anna were planning together to divorce me and had been secretly saving money to help Tom be with his new girlfriend, but that was just a guess. I decided to hire a detective to find out if Tom was really cheating on me. When I got home from the cafe, Tom smiled at me and said, "Welcome home." He seemed so innocent, but I couldn't believe what I had just learned about him. I always thought Tom was a good person, even if a little unreliable. It made me realize that people aren't always what they seem. A few weeks later, I got the detective's report. It confirmed that Tom was cheating on me. There were lots of photos of him and his mistress going into hotels together. That was proof that he was definitely having an affair. Next, I found out about the savings he'd been hiding from me. It was hard to figure out how he had money saved up. Based on his payslips, he shouldn't have been able to save much. Then I wondered, what if he had been showing me fake payslips? Tom wasn't smart enough to make fake payslips, but Anna might have helped him. I had to find proof. One weekend, when Tom and I went to visit Anna, she acted really strange. She wasn't like her usual self. "Elizabeth, will you cook for us today? You know I always cook for you. You should try cooking more on your own." "Okay. You're the wife, and wives should do most of the work." I was surprised by Anna's change in attitude, but she had always done everything herself before, so I didn't mind cooking. I made several dishes with ingredients from Anna's kitchen, but when I put the food on the table, Anna didn't want to eat it. "Anna, aren't you going to eat?" Then Anna started throwing the food into the trash. "What are you doing? I can't eat this terrible food." She took out cup noodles and started making them instead. "This is much better." I looked at Tom, but he didn't care about what was happening. Now I understand. Tom and Anna were working together to make me want a divorce. After that, Anna kept treating me badly. She made me do all the housework, cleaning the bathroom, toilet, storage room, and laundry, while she just laid on the couch and watched TV. If I tried to rest, she would yell at me, but I didn't let it bother me because I knew this was all part of their plan to get me to divorce Tom. In fact, it almost made me laugh at how ridiculous Anna's behavior was. Anna's bullying got worse when she saw it wasn't affecting me. As I was cleaning the living room, Anna suddenly dropped a dish, breaking it into pieces. "Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth, can you clean this up too?" she said with a smirk. I guess Anna thought she finally made me angry and would make me hate her, but honestly, I was a bit impressed that she would break her own dishes just to mess with me. "Anna, are you okay? I'll get a brush to clean this up," I said. When Anna heard me say that, she got really angry. She was probably upset that her plan didn't work again. After that, Anna's bullying got worse. "You're so annoying, you always do things too well, you should try to be more useless, why are you so obedient?" At this point, I could barely hold back my laughter. I was actually enjoying this, but then Anna went too far. One night, after dinner at Anna's house, I was washing the dishes when she came up to me and said, "You're using too much water, you ate it," and slapped me on the cheek. I immediately slapped her back with my soapy hand, and she fell to the ground. Tom rushed over and shouted, "What are you doing?" I ignored him and left Anna's house. I went home, and Tom followed me. "Hey, what the hell were you thinking, hitting my mom?" he said. "It was Anna who hit me first." "Well, you must have done something wrong, right?" "How can you say that? Anna just lost her temper for no reason." "I can't do this anymore." "Huh? I'm saying I can't stay married to someone who's violent toward my mom." "Oh, I see, so you want a divorce?" "Yes, I want a divorce." "Fine, let's get a divorce." I said that and pulled out the divorce papers from the drawer. "What, you already have the divorce papers ready?" I knew this was going to happen, but if we're going to talk about the divorce, can we get Anna to come over too? "What? Why?" "Mom has nothing to do with this. The reason for the divorce is because I hit her, right? And if we're getting a divorce, we should tell her properly." Tom reluctantly agreed and invited Anna over. A little later, Anna arrived. She glared at me, holding her red cheek. I ignored her and continued talking. "So, you really want a divorce?" "Yeah, I don't mind having the divorce." I filled out my part of the papers and handed them to Tom. After Tom filled in his part, he grinned and looked at Anna. "Well, I guess we're done then." "Wait, we're not done yet. We still need to talk about alimony and dividing property." Tom and Anna looked confused. "What are you talking about? Alimony? For what?" "For this," I said, placing the photos of Tom's affair, which I had gotten with the divorce papers, on the table. Tom and Anna turned pale. "You're having an affair, aren't you?" No, this is different," Tom said, trying to deny it. "You can't cover it up after being caught on camera entering a hotel room with your mistress. I'm sure I can get alimony for this, right?" "No way. And I know you've been secretly saving money." Tom and Anna's eyes widened in surprise. "You really thought you could get away with faking your payslips? What are you talking about?" "But I know you, Tom, you couldn't have done it by yourself. So Anna, you helped him, right?" "What? No, I didn't do anything." "Well, if you want to tell the truth, that's fine, but if you don't confess now, I'll sue you for fraud." Anna looked terrified, sweating with anxiety. "Don't accuse people without proof." "I'll get proof. There are many ways to do it. I'll take you to court and ask for your income records through my lawyer, then they'll show me your tax slips, and I'll know the truth." Tom's face went pale. Then, I said something that finally made him confess. "If you try to hide this, you'll be sued for all the damages, and you'll have to pay more than your share of the property. Is that okay?" Finally, Tom admitted everything. He said Anna had helped him fake his pay slips and that he'd been secretly saving money in his own account. When I asked him why, he gave me an answer that shocked me. Tom had always felt bad about earning less than me. He talked to Anna about it, and she told him to divorce me, but since I made more money, Anna advised him to let me cover more of the bills while he secretly saved money. Once he had enough, they planned to divorce me. It turns out Anna had been holding a grudge against me because I refused to live with her, so she came up with this plan to get rid of me. After hearing this, I realized there was no reason to be nice to them anymore. I hired a lawyer and demanded alimony from Tom and his mistress. I also made them reveal Tom's hidden savings and share some of it with me. Tom also had to pay me half the value of our house in exchange for me leaving. In the end, Tom ran out of money after paying me, and his mistress got angry when she found out about the alimony and left him. Since Anna had encouraged all of this, her relationship with Tom completely fell apart. He stopped visiting her and cut ties with her. I also told the neighbors what happened, and now they all see Anna as a bad person, No one talks to her anymore, and she's isolated. I reported Tom's affair to his workplace. Since it's a small company, everyone knows about it now, and Tom is ashamed because of how everyone is treating him. It feels good to get back at them like this. As for me, I'm now single and used the chance to buy a beautiful tower condo. I'm living in a spacious, luxurious place, and recently, I got a boyfriend, so I'm enjoying my new life and my love life. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.
The call from Alan came exactly 3 months after Grandma Evelyn's funeral. I was knee-deep in quarterly reports at my desk when my phone buzzed, displaying his name like an omen. My name is Presley, and until 6 months ago, I was nothing more than a shadow of myself, the dutiful wife of Damon Duncan, living in his world by his rules. Now, at 38, I'm finally becoming the woman I was meant to be. Presley, we need to talk. Alan's voice carried an urgency I hadn't heard since my divorce proceedings. It's about Evelyn's will. I straightened in my chair, ignoring the stack of reports demanding my attention. I thought everything was settled weeks ago. There's been a development? Can you come by the office today? The fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright, too harsh. Alan, you're scaring me. What's going on? It's better discussed in person. How's 4 o'clock? After hanging up, I stared at my reflection in the darkened computer screen. The woman looking back at me wasn't the same person who'd signed divorce papers a year ago. My hair was shorter now, professional. My eyes harder, more determined. Damon had always insisted I keep my hair long, one of his many attempts to mold me into his perfect wife. Earth to Presley, Michaela's voice cut through my thoughts as she leaned against my office doorframe. You look like you've seen a ghost. Just got a weird call from Alan about Grandma's will. She crossed her arms, frowning. The lawyer Alan? I thought that was all wrapped up? So did I. I grabbed my purse, needing to move, to do something. Want to grab coffee? At our usual spot across from the office, Michaela stirred her latte while I recounted the call. You don't think Damon's trying something, do you? The question made my stomach clench. He can't. The divorce settlement was clear. Honey, when has that ever stopped him? She had a point. During our marriage, Damon had expertly manipulated every situation to his advantage. Even now, months after signing the papers, I sometimes caught myself second-guessing my decisions. His voice in my head telling me I wasn't capable, wasn't smart enough. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Sadie, my sister. Have you heard from Alan? She asked without preamble. Just got off the phone with him. You too? Yeah, something's up, Prez. I don't like it. I checked my watch. Still 2 hours until the meeting. Meet me at his office? Already on my way. Michaela squeezed my hand. Want me to come with? No, but thanks. I need to handle this. The words came out stronger than I felt. Look at you, all grown up and facing your demons, she smiled. Remember when you couldn't even order coffee without checking with Damon first? I winced at the memory. God, I was pathetic. No, you were controlled. There's a difference. The walk to Alan's office gave me time to think. Grandma Evelyn had left me her estate, the house, the investments, everything. She'd always seen through Damon's facade, warning me years before I'd finally seen the truth myself. A woman's worth isn't measured by her husband's approval, she'd told me once, her wise eyes seeing right through my carefully constructed happiness. Alan's secretary ushered me into his office immediately. Sadie was already there, pacing by the window. Thanks for coming so quickly, Alan said, gesturing to the chairs. We have a situation. Just tell us, Sadie demanded, still standing. Alan pulled out a thick folder. I received a letter this morning from Regina Mitchell's lawyer. My blood ran cold. Regina, Damon's new wife, the woman he'd left me for. What could she possibly want? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Half of Evelyn's estate. Alan's voice was grim. She's claiming Damon has rights to it through your marriage. Sadie cursed. That's ridiculous. They're divorced. It gets worse, Alan continued. They're threatening to contest the will if we don't settle. I sat very still, remembering Grandma Evelyn's last words to me. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they're winning. What aren't you telling us, Alan? I asked quietly. He smiled for the first time since we'd arrived. Your grandmother was a brilliant woman, Presley. She anticipated something like this might happen. He pulled out another document, this one sealed. She left specific instructions not to open this unless someone contested the will. My hand shook as I took the envelope. What's in it? I don't know, Alan admitted. But knowing Evelyn, I'd say Damon and his new wife are in for quite a surprise. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 a.m. the next morning. I was already dressed for work, sipping coffee and reviewing the contents of Grandma Evelyn's sealed envelope when Regina's perfectly manicured finger pressed the button again. And again. Coming, I called, tucking the documents into my briefcase. Regina stood on my porch like she owned it, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Presley, darling, it's been too long. Has it? I stepped aside, letting her enter. I think the last time was at your wedding to my ex-husband. She laughed, the sound brittle. Water under the bridge, surely. We're practically family. What do you want, Regina? She settled onto my couch without waiting for an invitation. Direct. I like that. Well, let's be equally direct. Damon and I want to discuss Evelyn's estate. There's nothing to discuss. I remained standing, watching her examine her nails. Oh, but there is. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through what looked like legal documents. You see, Damon was married to you when Evelyn made her will. That creates certain entitlements. I fought to keep my voice steady. Does it? And what does your lawyer say about that? Her head snapped up, surprise flickering across her face. How did you know about the lawyer? Alan called me yesterday. He's very thorough. Regina's composure slipped for just a moment. Then you know we have a case. Do you? I walked to my kitchen, pouring another cup of coffee. Would you like some? No, thank you. She stood, following me. Presley, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Damon's willing to settle for half. I nearly choked on my coffee. Willing to settle? That's generous of him. He has rights. He has nothing. I set my cup down harder than intended. And you know what's interesting? He sent you to do his dirty work. Still can't face me himself? Regina's perfectly painted lips tightened. Damon thought I could handle this more diplomatically. Diplomatically? I laughed. Is that what this is? My phone buzzed, a text from Sadie. On my way. Don't let her leave. Look, Regina's voice softened, almost sympathetic. I know you're still hurt about everything. Stop. I held up my hand. Let me be very clear. I'm not hurt. I'm not bitter. I'm not even angry anymore. What I am is done with Damon's games. The doorbell rang again. Regina jumped. Sadie burst in before I could answer, Alan right behind her. Sorry we're late. Traffic was horrible. My sister's voice was deliberately cheerful. Oh, Regina, what a surprise. Regina's eyes darted between them. I should go. Actually, Alan stepped forward, I think you should stay. We have some documents to discuss. I don't have to talk to you. Regina grabbed her purse. My lawyer. Your lawyer, Alan interrupted, should have done better research. Evelyn made changes to her will 3 months before she died, after Presley's divorce was finalized. I watched the color drain from Regina's face. That's impossible. We checked. The public records? Sadie smiled. Grandma was smarter than that. Alan pulled out a document. This is the actual will, filed privately. And this, he produced another paper, is a detailed account of every attempt Damon made to access Evelyn's finances while married to Presley. Regina's hands shook as she took the papers. I don't understand. It's simple, I said. Grandma knew Damon would try something like this. She kept records. Every time he asked about her investments, Every time he suggested Presley help manage her accounts. Every time he tried to convince her to add his name to her properties. That's not... Regina swallowed hard. Damon wouldn't... He would, and he did. Sadie's voice was steel. And now he's using you to try again. Regina sank into a chair, papers crumpling in her grip. He said it was a sure thing, that she'd cave rather than fight. He was wrong. I took the documents gently from her hands. And, Regina, you might want to check your joint accounts. Damon has a habit of making investments disappear when things don't go his way. Her head snapped up, real fear in her eyes now. She grabbed her phone, fingers flying over the screen. "Oh, God," she whispered. "The savings, they're gone." "Let me guess," Sadie said. "He moved them yesterday right after you agreed to come here?" Regina stood abruptly, mascara smearing as she wiped her eyes. "I have to go." "Regina," I called as she reached the door, "there's one more thing you should know." She turned, looking suddenly much younger and more vulnerable. "Grandma's will has a clause. If anyone contests it, everything goes to charity. Everything." The door closed behind her with a quiet click. "Well," Sadie grinned, "that was fun." But I was already pulling out my phone, Regina's devastated expression haunting me. "Alan, we need to make some calls. She's about to find out exactly what kind of man she married." The memory hit me as I was making dinner that night. Damon, standing in our old kitchen, his voice dripping with condescension as he explained why I shouldn't take that promotion. "Honey, you're just not ready for that kind of responsibility," he'd said, stirring his coffee. "Besides, what would you do with all that extra money? I take care of everything we need." The sound of something shattering snapped me back to the present. I'd gripped the wine glass too hard, sending shards across my kitchen floor. "Damn it," I muttered, reaching for the broom. My phone rang, Regina's number flashing on the screen. I hesitated before answering. "He's gone." Her voice was barely a whisper. "He cleared out everything, even my personal account." I sat down heavily. "How much?" 300,000. She choked back a sob. "My entire inheritance from my father." "Regina, don't. Please don't say you warned me." There was rustling in the background. I thought I was different, special, not like me?" "Yes." The word came out broken. "He said you were clingy, controlling, that you held him back." I couldn't help but laugh. "Let me guess. He said I was jealous of his success, that I couldn't handle his ambition? How did you—" "Because that's his script, Regina. He used the same lines on me about his first wife." Silence stretched between us. Finally, she spoke again. "There was no first wife, was there?" "No. Just like there was no Harvard MBA, no family money, no tech startup that failed because of betrayal by his partners." "Oh, God." Her breathing became erratic. "I'm going to be sick." "Regina, listen to me. Call your bank right now. Report the transfers as fraudulent. Then call the police. I'll have Alan contact you in the morning." "Why are you helping me?" I thought about Grandma Evelyn, about her strength and wisdom. "Because 5 years ago, I was you." After hanging up, I called Sadie. "You're not going to believe this," she answered. "Damon just tried to buy a ticket to Belize." "How do you know that?" "Remember Tommy from high school? He works for the airline now. Called me as soon as he saw the name." I grabbed my keys. "Where is he?" "Airport. Flight leaves in 2 hours." "Call Alan. Tell him to meet me there." 20 minutes later, I pulled into the airport parking lot. Sadie was already waiting with Alan and 2 police officers. "Ms. Ray?" One officer stepped forward. "We understand you have information about Mr. Duncan." Alan handed them a file. "Multiple counts of fraud, theft, and financial exploitation. We've been building this case for months." "Since Grandma died," I added, "she kept everything. Every document, every email, every transfer he tried to hide." "This is impressive," the second officer said, flipping through the pages. "But why didn't you come forward sooner?" "Because we needed him to do it again," Alan explained. "To establish a pattern. Show it wasn't just one isolated incident." My phone buzzed with a text from Regina. "Bank froze the accounts. They're investigating the transfers. And there it is, I showed them the message. His latest victim just filed a complaint. The officers exchanged looks. We'll need statements from both of you. Already prepared, Alan produced more documents, along with testimony from his previous business partners. A voice came over the airport speakers announcing final boarding for the flight to Belize. Through the terminal windows, I saw him, Damon, striding toward the security checkpoint, still wearing the same confident smile that had once made me believe every lie. That's him, I nodded to the officers. They moved quickly, professionally. I watched as they intercepted him, as the smile faltered and died. He looked around wildly, finally spotting me standing with Sadie and Alan. You? He mouthed, face contorting with rage. I thought of all the times he'd made me doubt myself, all the dreams I'd abandoned because he said I wasn't good enough, all the years I'd spent believing I was the problem. Karma's a bitch, Sadie muttered beside me. But watching the handcuffs click around his wrists, I felt no satisfaction, only relief, and something else, something that felt surprisingly like pity. My phone buzzed again. Regina. Thank you. I'm ready to tell the police everything. You know, Sadie said as we watched them lead Damon away, Grandma would be proud. Of what? Sending my ex-husband to jail? She squeezed my hand. Of you finally standing up for yourself and for others. I thought about Regina, about all the other women Damon might have targeted if we hadn't stopped him. Come on, I said. We have work to do. You need to see this. Sadie dropped a stack of papers on my kitchen table the next morning. The police found it in Damon's apartment. I pushed aside my coffee, pulling the documents closer. Lists of women's names, dates, dollar amounts. My stomach turned as I realized what I was looking at. How many? I asked. 12, that we can confirm. All wealthy widows or divorcees. Sadie sat down heavily. He had their whole lives mapped out. When they inherited, where they banked, their vulnerabilities. Like Regina's father's death. Exactly. She tapped one of the pages. Look at the dates. He started planning Regina while you were still married. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Regina stood on my porch, looking nothing like the polished woman who'd arrived 2 days ago. Her eyes were red, her designer outfit replaced with jeans and a sweater. I brought bagels, she said quietly. And files, lots of files. We spread everything across my dining room table, bank statements, emails, photos. Regina's hands shook as she pointed to specific transactions. He always had an explanation, she said. Every missing dollar, every strange transfer. He made it sound so reasonable. That's what he does, I replied, remembering my own experiences. He twists things until you doubt your own judgment. Like this. Regina pulled out an email. He convinced me to invest in a startup. Said it was a sure thing, but we had to move fast. No time for my lawyer to review it. Sadie snorted. Let me guess. The company doesn't exist? Oh, it exists. Regina's laugh was bitter. It's a shell corporation. He owns it. My phone buzzed. Alan calling. I put him on speaker. The DA wants to meet, he said without preamble. They're building a RICO case. This goes beyond just fraud. What do you mean? I asked. Your grandmother's records were the key. They show a pattern going back 15 years. Multiple states, multiple victims. It's organized crime. Regina's face went pale. Organized? You mean he's not alone? We found evidence of at least 3 accomplices. People who helped him identify targets, set up fake companies, move money offshore. I thought about Grandma Evelyn, how she'd spent her last years quietly gathering evidence. She knew, I whispered. That's why she left everything in trust, why she made it impossible for him to access. Smart woman, your grandmother, Alan said. She protected not just you, but others too. After the call ended, Regina stared at the papers scattered across the table. I feel so stupid. Don't, I touched her arm. He's a professional con man. This is what he does. Did he ever... She hesitated. Did he hit you? No. His violence was all emotional. Mind games, gaslighting, constant criticism. He told me I was crazy, Regina's voice cracked. When I questioned the transfers, Said I was being paranoid, that I needed help. Sadie's phone chimed with a news alert. She held it up, showing us the headline, "Prominent businessman arrested in multi-state fraud scheme." "It's really over," Regina breathed. "Not quite." I pulled out Grandma's original envelope, the one Alan had given me. "There's something else you should see." Inside was a letter, written in Grandma's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Presley, if you're reading this, it means someone, probably Damon, has tried to claim what isn't theirs. I'm leaving you not just my estate, but my purpose. The trust I've established isn't just for you, it's for all his victims, past and future. Use it to help them rebuild. Use it to stop him. All my love, Grandma Evelyn." Regina wiped her eyes. "She set up a fund for his victims?" "Yes." I showed her the trust documents, legal aid, financial counseling, whatever they need to recover. "Your grandmother?" Regina shook her head in amazement. "She planned all this?" "She believed in karma," Sadie said, "but she also believed in helping it along." I looked at the women around my table. My sister, who'd never lost faith in me, Regina, finding her strength, and somewhere, watching over us, Grandma Evelyn, who'd turned her pain into purpose. "So," I said, gathering the scattered papers, "who's ready to help some people rebuild their lives?" Regina straightened her shoulders, a hint of her old confidence returning. "Where do we start?" "We start," Sadie grinned, "by making some calls. There are 10 other women out there who need to know they're not alone." As we began organizing the files, I felt Grandma's presence strongly. She'd known this day would come, had prepared for it meticulously. Now it was our turn to carry on her work. "Hey," Regina caught my arm. "Thank you for not saying, 'I told you so.'" "That's not what this is about," I replied. "This is about making things right." The courthouse steps felt steeper than I remembered. 2 weeks had passed since Damon's arrest, and now we were facing the first bail hearing. Regina walked beside me, her head high despite the whispers and stares. "Ready?" I asked as we reached the top. Before she could answer, a familiar voice cut through the morning air. "Well, if it isn't my 2 favorite ex-wives." Damon stood at the entrance, flanked by his lawyer. He'd lost weight in detention, but his smile was the same, predatory, confident. "Surprised to see you both here," he continued. "Supporting each other? How touching." Regina's hand found mine, squeezing hard. "Save it, Damon. We're not here for you." "No?" He stepped closer. "Then why are you here? To watch the show? To feel vindicated?" "We're here for them." I nodded toward the group of women gathering near the courthouse doors, his other victims, brought together by Grandma's trust. His smile faltered slightly. "More bitter ex-girlfriends. Please, no judge will take this seriously." "Actually," Alan's voice came from behind us, "the judge is very interested in hearing from everyone, especially about the offshore accounts we found yesterday." Damon's lawyer grabbed his arm. "Don't say another word." But Damon shrugged him off, his facade cracking. "You think you're so clever, don't you, Presley? Playing detective with Mommy's money?" "Grandmother's," I corrected. "And she played detective long before I did. Want to know what else she found?" His face darkened. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone, showing him an email. "This is from 3 years ago. You discussing your investment strategy with your partners, the ones helping you target wealthy women." "That's inadmissible," his lawyer started. "In criminal court, maybe," Alan interrupted. "But the civil suits these ladies are filing? That's different." Damon's composure finally broke. "You vindictive bitch! You really think you can take me down?" "No," Regina stepped forward. "We already have." The courthouse doors opened, and more women emerged, faces I recognized from his files, each carrying documents, each ready to testify. "You see, Damon," I said quietly, "while you were sitting in jail, we were busy. Every woman you conned, every dollar you stole, every lie you told, it's all coming out. You can't prove anything." "We don't have to," Regina's voice was steel. You kept records, detailed ones, and guess what? The FBI is very interested in your little network. His lawyer was practically dragging him away now, but Damon couldn't help himself. "I made you both!" he shouted. "You were nothing before me." "No," I called after him. "We were everything before you. We just forgot for a while." Inside the courtroom, I watched as woman after woman stood to testify against bail. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same: trust betrayed, money stolen, lives shattered. "Ms. Ray?" The judge's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Would you like to make a statement?" I stood, feeling the weight of every woman's eyes. "Your Honor, I'm not here to talk about what Damon took from me. I'm here to talk about what he tried to take from all of us: our dignity, our self-worth, our trust in ourselves." Damon shifted in his seat as I continued. But he failed. Because what he never understood is that women like us, we don't break, we rebuild, we support each other, and we fight back. The judge nodded thoughtfully. "And the trust your grandmother established?" "Is already helping his victims recover their losses. But more importantly, it's helping them recover themselves." "Objection." Damon's lawyer stood. "This is irrelevant to the bail hearing." "On the contrary," the judge replied, "it speaks directly to the defendant's pattern of behavior and the community's response to it." She turned back to me. "Continue, Ms. Ray." "There's nothing more to say, Your Honor, except that my grandmother saw through him years ago, and she made sure he wouldn't hurt anyone else." "Your grandmother sounds like a remarkable woman." I smiled, feeling Grandma Evelyn's presence strongly. She was. And she taught me that true strength isn't in tearing others down. It's in helping them stand up. The judge denied bail, citing flight risk and the extensive evidence of ongoing criminal enterprise. As they led Damon away, he caught my eye one last time. "This isn't over," he mouthed. "Actually," Regina whispered beside me, "it is." Outside, the group of women gathered on the courthouse steps, sharing stories, exchanging numbers, building connections. "Look at what you started," Sadie said, joining us. "No," I corrected her. "Look at what Grandma started. We're just carrying it forward." Regina linked her arm through mine. "So, what's next?" I watched the sun rise over the courthouse, thinking of all the other Damons out there, all the women who needed help. "Now," I said, "we get to work." "You need to see this," Michaela burst into my office, waving her tablet. Someone leaked Damon's client list. I looked up from the stack of victim statements I'd been reviewing. "What?" She turned the tablet around, showing me a news article. "All his contacts, his targeting strategy, everything. It's gone viral." My phone immediately lit up with calls and messages. Regina's name flashed first. "Have you seen it?" she asked before I could speak. "Just now. Any idea who leaked it?" "Not yet, but that's not the important part. Check your email." I pulled up my inbox, finding dozens of new messages. Women sharing stories, asking for help, offering support. "It's happening everywhere," Regina continued. "They're all coming forward." Michaela perched on my desk, scrolling through social media. "It's trending! Damon's dupes!" "That's terrible," I said, but couldn't help smiling. "But effective," Michaela countered. "Look at these comments. Women are warning each other, sharing red flags, offering resources." My office door opened again as Sadie rushed in. "Emergency meeting at Alan's office, now." 20 minutes later, we sat around Alan's conference table. Me, Sadie, Regina, and representatives from 3 different women's advocacy groups. "The DA wants to make a deal," Alan announced, laying out documents. "No." Regina's response was immediate. "He doesn't get to walk away from this." "Not that kind of deal," Alan clarified. "They want him to name names. His entire network in exchange for a slightly reduced sentence." "How slightly?" I asked. 20 years instead of 30. Sadie whistled. "He'll never take it." "He already has." Alan slid a paper across the table. "This arrived an hour ago. Full confession, names, dates, bank accounts, everything." "Why?" Regina's voice shook. "Why now?" "Because," I realized, "he knows the leaked list is just the beginning. He's trying to control the narrative." Too late for that. Michaela turned her tablet around again, showing us more headlines. 3 of his partners have already been arrested. 2 more turned themselves in. It's falling like dominoes, Sadie grinned. My phone buzzed with another message, this one from a number I didn't recognize. The text contained only a photo. Grandma Evelyn's garden, taken years ago. She was sitting on her favorite bench, smiling at the camera. Look at the date, I showed Sadie. This was taken the day she changed her will. She knew, Regina said softly. She knew this would happen. Not just knew, Alan corrected. Planned for it. That trust she set up? It's not just for financial support. It's designed to fund investigations, legal aid, counseling, everything needed to take down operations like Damon's. Speaking of the trust, Sadie pulled out her laptop. We've had over 100 applications since the list leaked. Women from all over the country. I thought about Grandma's letter, her vision of helping others rebuild. We're going to need a bigger office. Already on it, Michaela said. I've been talking to that women's center downtown. They have a whole floor available. Perfect. I stood up, energized. Let's turn this into something bigger than Damon ever imagined. A support network? Regina suggested. More than that, I said. A movement. Education, prevention, recovery, everything we wished we'd had. Evelyn's legacy, Sadie said suddenly. That's what we should call it. The name felt right, a tribute to the woman who'd seen the bigger picture, who'd turned her own pain into purpose. There's something else, Alan said, pulling out one final document. Evelyn left instructions about this too. She wanted the foundation to be run by survivors, for survivors. Regina straightened in her chair. We could help so many people. We already are. Michaela showed us her tablet again. The hashtag had evolved. Damon's dupes had become one stronger together. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number, another woman reaching out for help. This time, I knew exactly what to say. Welcome to the family, I typed back. You're not alone anymore. Looking around the table at these women who'd become my strength, Sadie with her unwavering support, Regina with her newfound purpose, Michaela with her fierce loyalty, I felt Grandma Evelyn's presence stronger than ever. Okay, I said, pulling out a notebook. Let's get to work. These women need us. No, Regina corrected gently. We need each other. That's what makes this different from everything Damon tried to destroy. She was right. In trying to break us, he'd actually brought us together, creating something stronger than he could ever imagine. Evelyn's legacy, I wrote at the top of the page, where healing helps others heal. Grandma would have liked that. The courtroom fell silent as Damon was led in for sentencing. 3 months had passed since the list leaked, and everything had changed. He looked smaller somehow, his designer suit replaced by prison orange, his confident smirk gone. All rise, the bailiff called. I stood between Regina and Sarah, one of the women we'd helped through Evelyn's legacy. Behind us, dozens more filled the benches, a united front of survivors. Before I deliver the sentence, the judge began, would any of the victims like to make a final statement? I hadn't planned to speak, but something in Damon's defeated posture propelled me forward. Your Honor, I started, feeling every eye in the room. I'm not here to talk about punishment. I'm here to talk about transformation. Damon's head snapped up, his eyes meeting mine for the first time. When this man entered our lives, he saw us as targets. Weak, vulnerable, easy marks. I gestured to the women behind me. But look at us now. Regina stood, then Sarah, then others, one by one, until the entire gallery was on its feet. In the past 3 months, Evelyn's legacy has helped over 200 women recover from financial abuse. We've launched education programs in 3 states. We've partnered with banks to create fraud prevention protocols. Objection, Damon's lawyer interrupted. This isn't relevant to sentencing. I disagree, the judge replied. Please continue, Ms. Ray. The point is, Your Honor, what started as one man's scheme to destroy women has become a movement to empower them. Every dollar he stole, every life he tried to ruin, has been transformed into something stronger. And the foundation? The judge asked. How is it funded? I smiled, finally understanding the full brilliance of Grandma's plan. With his money, Your Honor, every cent recovered from his accounts, every asset seized, It all goes back into helping his victims. And not just his victims, but anyone who's been financially abused. Damon stood abruptly. You can't do that. That's my money. No, Regina called from behind me. It's blood money, and now it's being used for healing. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Duncan, sit down or you'll be removed. This isn't over, he snarled. You think you've won. I still have contacts. Resources you don't know about. Actually, Alan stood, holding up a document. We found those too. This morning's raids recovered another $12 million in hidden assets. Damon's face went pale. That's impossible. Your partner Marco turned over everything, I said quietly. All your backup accounts, all your offshore holdings, everything. Marco? Damon's voice cracked. But he was my best friend, Regina finished. Amazing how loyalty crumbles when faced with 30 years in prison. The judge cleared her throat. If there's nothing else, I'm ready to deliver my sentence. Wait, Damon called out desperately. I can help you find more money, other operations like mine. Just, please. 25 years, the judge announced, cutting him off. No possibility of parole for 20, and every asset you own will be liquidated to compensate your victims. As they led him away, Damon stopped in front of me. I made you, he whispered. No, I replied. My grandmother made me. You just showed me how strong I could be. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered around us. Ms. Ray, what's next for Evelyn's legacy? I looked at the women surrounding me. Not victims anymore, but survivors, leaders, warriors. We're just getting started, Regina answered, stepping forward. Next week, we launch our national hotline. The month after that, our first shelter opens. And the money? Another reporter called out. What happens when Damon's assets run out? They won't. Sadie joined us, holding up her phone. 3 more organizations just pledged matching funds. Corporations want to partner with us. This is bigger than Damon now. My phone buzzed. A message from Michaela at the new office. You need to see this. Another ring just got exposed in Miami. Women asking for our help. Excuse us, I told the reporters. We have work to do. As we walked down the courthouse steps, Sarah caught my arm. Thank you, she said softly, for showing us we weren't alone. We never were, I replied, thinking of Grandma Evelyn. We just needed someone to remind us. Regina linked arms with us both. So, Miami? I grinned, feeling stronger than ever. Miami, and then wherever else we're needed. Because that's what Grandma had really left us. Not just money or property, but a purpose, a mission, a legacy of turning pain into power, betrayal into brotherhood, weakness into strength. You know what this means? Sadie called from ahead. Road trip. And just like that, we were laughing, moving forward, ready for whatever came next. Because we weren't just survivors anymore. We were warriors, and we had work to do. You're sure about this? Sadie asked as we stood in Grandma Evelyn's garden. The autumn air was crisp, leaves dancing around our feet. Completely. I handed her the deed to the house. The foundation needs a proper home, somewhere that feels safe. Regina emerged from the back door, carrying a box of supplies. The contractors can start renovations next week. Turn the upstairs into counseling offices, the basement into a training center. And the garden? Michaela called from where she was clearing fallen leaves. Stays exactly as it is, I said firmly. This was Grandma's sanctuary. Now it can be sanctuary for others. Sarah arrived with coffee for everyone, her eyes bright with excitement. The first support group starts tonight. We already have 12 women signed up. Make that 13, a voice called from the garden gate. We turned to see a woman standing there, clutching her purse tightly. I saw your website about financial abuse. Regina stepped forward immediately, her voice gentle. Come in, you're safe here. As Regina led the woman inside, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. The woman staring back wasn't a victim or even just a survivor. She was a warrior, just like Grandma had been. Mail's here, Sadie announced, waving a stack of envelopes. More donations, more volunteer applications, and... What's this? She held up a letter with a familiar handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. It's from Damon. Everyone froze. Dear Presley, I read aloud, I finally understand what your grandmother saw in me, a small man trying to make himself bigger by making others smaller. The money, the cons, the manipulation, it was all because I couldn't stand seeing strong women. But sitting here in my cell, watching news reports about Evelyn's legacy, I realize you've won in a way I never could. You built something. I only destroyed. I won't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know, you were never nothing. I was. Silence fell over the garden. Well, Michaela finally said, that's unexpected. It doesn't change anything, I folded the letter carefully. But maybe it means we really did break the cycle. Inside, we could hear Regina talking with the new arrival, her voice carrying through the open window. The first step is the hardest, but look around. Every woman here has stood where you're standing. Even you? The woman asked quietly. Even me. And now I help others find their strength, just like Presley helped me find mine. My phone buzzed. Alan calling with updates about the Miami case. 3 more arrests, millions in recovered assets, dozens of women coming forward. We need to expand, Sadie said, reading the message over my shoulder. Other cities are asking for help setting up their own branches. Then we'll help them, I replied. That's what Grandma would have done. Sarah emerged from the house with the new arrival, who looked slightly less frightened now. Amanda's going to stay for the support group tonight, she announced. Welcome to the family, I smiled. Would you like to see the garden? This was my grandmother's special place. As we walked among the flowers, I told Amanda about Grandma Evelyn, about her strength and foresight, about how she turned her pain into purpose. I never thought I'd feel strong again, Amanda admitted, touching a late-blooming rose. Neither did I, Regina joined us. But that's the beauty of this place. We heal by helping others heal. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the garden. Women began arriving for the support group, each carrying their own story, their own pain, their own hope for healing. Ready? Sadie asked as we gathered in Grandma's living room, now transformed into a warm meeting space. I looked around at these faces, some familiar, some new, all part of something bigger than ourselves. Regina, who'd turned her betrayal into purpose. Sarah, who'd found her voice helping others. Amanda, taking her first steps toward healing. And somewhere, watching over us all, Grandma Evelyn, whose legacy lived on in every woman we helped. More than ready, I replied. Let's begin. Because that's what warriors do. We begin again and again and again. We turn our scars into strength, our pain into power, our endings into new beginnings. And somewhere in a prison cell, a small man was finally understanding just how big women could be when they stood together. But that wasn't our story anymore. Our story was here, in this garden, in this house, in these moments of healing and hope. Welcome, everyone, I said to the group. Who would like to share first? And as the stories began to flow, I felt Grandma's presence stronger than ever. Not in the past, but in the future we were building. One woman, one story, one moment of strength at a time. This was her real legacy, and it was just beginning.
The reflection in my mirror showed dark circles under my eyes. But for once, I didn't care. Today wasn't about me. It was about Teresa's 7th birthday, and I'd be damned if I let anything ruin it. Even if that meant enduring 3 hours of Sophia's snide remarks about my quaint decorations and modest lifestyle. I'm Camila, and for the past 4 years, I've been raising my daughter alone, while my ex-husband Maximus plays occasional weekend dad between business trips and his new girlfriends. The birthday parties are always the worst. That's when his whole family descends like perfectly coiffed vultures, especially his sister Sophia. "Mommy, is Aunt Sophia really coming?" Teresa asked, peeking into my bedroom. Her princess dress sparkled in the morning light, and my heart melted at the sight of her gap-toothed smile. "Yes, baby, but don't worry about her. Today is your special day." I adjusted her tiara, pushing aside thoughts of last year's disaster, when Sophia had commented loudly about how second-hand party supplies show such admirable resourcefulness. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 p.m. Sophia always arrived first, probably to get in her initial round of jabs before the other guests arrived. "Camila, darling." She air-kissed both my cheeks, her designer perfume overwhelming my senses. "This is different." Her eyes swept across the living room I'd spent hours decorating with an enchanted forest theme. "Very DIY, though I suppose that's all the rage now among the budget-conscious." I forced a smile. "Teresa helped design everything herself." "Of course she did." Sophia's perfectly manicured hand waved dismissively. "Though if you'd accepted Mom's offer to host at the country club..." "Teresa wanted the party at home," I cut her off, my voice steady despite the familiar anger bubbling up. The next hour was a blur of arriving guests, excited children, and carefully orchestrated games. I caught Quinn's supportive glance from across the room as she helped serve cake. She knew how much I was holding back. "Oh my God, is that the same dress you wore to last year's Christmas dinner?" Sophia's voice carried across the room as I was setting up the pin-the-tail game. "I admire how you make things last." Several parents turned to look, and I felt my cheeks burn. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Miles. "Meeting confirmed. Investors ready. This is it, Kay." I smiled, sliding the phone back into my pocket. Let Sophia have her moment. In 6 months, everything would be different. "Mommy, can we do presents now?" Teresa tugged at my sleeve, her eyes bright with excitement. "Of course, sweetheart." I gathered everyone around the gift table, deliberately ignoring Sophia's theatrical sigh when she saw the modest pile of presents. "Here's mine first," Sophia announced, producing an enormous box wrapped in designer paper. "Every little girl deserves something special." Teresa's eyes widened as she unwrapped the latest gaming console, the one I'd told her we couldn't afford right now. "I know your mom said no," Sophia stage whispered to Teresa, "but Aunt Sophia knows what little girls really want." The room went quiet. I could feel Quinn tensing beside me, ready to intervene, but I touched her arm gently. "Thank you, Sophia," I said calmly. "That's very generous." "Well, someone has to be," she replied with a saccharine smile. "We can't all be satisfied with mediocrity." Later, as the last guests were leaving, I overheard Sophia on her phone in the hallway. "Daddy, what do you mean the meeting was canceled? The Singapore deal has to go through." "Daddy? Daddy!" She caught me watching and quickly composed herself, but I'd seen the flash of panic in her eyes. Something was wrong in the perfect Whitfield world, and suddenly, the text from Miles felt even more significant. That night, after tucking Teresa into bed with her new console, which I'd decided to let her keep, I wouldn't use my daughter as a pawn. I sat in my kitchen with a glass of wine and my laptop. The business plan Miles and I had been working on for months glowed on the screen. Our investors were ready, the patents were nearly approved, and timing, as they say, is everything. "Just you wait, Sophia," I whispered to my empty kitchen. "Just you wait." My phone lit up with another text from Miles. "You won't believe what I just heard about Whitfield Industries." I smiled, took a sip of wine, and clicked reply. The game was about to change, and for once, I had all the right cards. "The numbers look solid," Miles said, sliding the financial projections across his desk. "But there's something you need to know about the Whitfield situation." I leaned forward in my chair, remembering Sophia's panicked phone call at Teresa's party. "Tell me." "Their Singapore deal is falling apart. My contact in their legal department says Eugene's been making desperate moves, trying to cover massive losses." Miles lowered his voice. "They're on the verge of collapse, Camila." The irony wasn't lost on me. 4 years ago, when Maximus left, his family had made sure I walked away with nothing but my daughter and my dignity. Now their empire was crumbling. "What about our investment timeline?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "We could move forward now, but..." Miles hesitated. "If we wait 3 months, we might be able to acquire their distribution network for pennies on the dollar." My phone buzzed. A text from Teresa's school. Mommy, I forgot my lunch. Can you bring it? I need to run, I told Miles. Teresa forgot her lunch. He smiled knowingly. Go. We'll finish this later. Driving to Teresa's school, my mind wandered to the day Maximus left. I'd been making lunch then, too. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for Teresa's preschool. I can't do this anymore, he'd said, standing in our kitchen with a packed suitcase. The pressure from my family, this modest life, I need more. More than your daughter? I'd asked, but he was already walking out the door. The school secretary smiled as I walked in with Teresa's lunch bag. She's such a wonderful child, she said, always helping the other kids. I found Teresa in the cafeteria, sitting alone. My heart clenched. Baby, what's wrong? I sat beside her. Jenny said I can't sit with them because Aunt Sophia told her mom we're poor. Teresa's bottom lip trembled. Are we poor, Mommy? I pulled her close. No, sweetheart, we have everything we need, and soon we'll have even more. But why does Aunt Sophia say those mean things? Some people think money makes them better than others, I explained. But true wealth isn't in your wallet, it's in your heart. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Quinn. You won't believe what I just overheard at the country club, she said, when I called her back in the car. Sophia was arguing with her father about selling her house. Things must be worse than we thought. How bad? Bad enough that she was crying in the bathroom about having to cancel her trip to Paris. I pulled into my office parking lot, thoughts racing. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel wasn't there. Instead, I felt an uncomfortable mix of vindication and pity. Back at my desk, I found an email from our patent attorney. Final approval expected within 60 days. Proceed with investor meetings. My finger hovered over the reply button when Miles knocked on my door. Eugene Whitfield is asking about selling their warehouse space, he said without preamble. They're desperate for quick cash. The same warehouse space we were planning to lease? He nodded. At triple our budget, but if we wait, we could buy it outright when they crash, I finished his thought. Exactly. But Camila... Miles sat down. Are you sure you want to play this game? Revenge might feel good now, but... This isn't about revenge, I interrupted. This is business. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Sophia. I showed Miles the message. He raised an eyebrow. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, another text came through. Please, it's about Teresa's trust fund. My hands clenched. The trust fund Maximus's family had promised Teresa, then conveniently lost in paperwork after the divorce. I should get back to work, Miles said, standing. Just remember who you are, Camila. Don't let them change that. After he left, I stared at Sophia's text. 4 years of snide comments, social humiliation, and watching my daughter cry because of their cruelty flashed through my mind. My phone buzzed one more time. A photo from Teresa. She'd drawn our family portrait in art class. Just the two of us, holding hands, with a rainbow above our heads. Love you, Mommy. I picked up my phone and typed a reply to Sophia. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office. The game was changing, but I needed to decide what winning really meant. As I looked at Teresa's drawing again, I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about rewriting our future. Sophia was 15 minutes late to our meeting, but her usual confidence was missing when she walked into my office. Her designer clothes looked immaculate as always, but her eyes were rimmed red. Coffee? I offered, more out of habit than hospitality. No, She smoothed her skirt, sitting down. Thank you for meeting me. I waited, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. It's about Teresa's trust fund, she finally said. There's been a complication. You mean the trust fund that mysteriously vanished after Maximus left? I kept my voice neutral. The one your mother said must have been lost in the market crash? Sophia flinched. We never meant to. My phone rang. It was Teresa's school again. Ms. Fletcher, Teresa's running a fever. Could you come get her? I'll be right there. I stood up. We'll have to continue this another time. Wait! Sophia grabbed my arm. Please, Daddy's business. We're in trouble. Real trouble. And I know you're working on something big with Miles. I carefully removed her hand. I need to get my daughter. Your daughter? She laughed bitterly. She's my niece, Camila. Family. Despite everything. Family? I turned back. Where was family when Teresa needed her father? When your mother told everyone at church I was a gold digger? When you... My phone buzzed with a text from Quinn. Market rumors about Whitfield Industries getting worse. Stock down 30% today. Sophia's phone chimed at the same time. The color drained from her face as she read whatever message she'd received. I have to go, I said, grabbing my purse. Teresa needs me. That's just it, Sophia called after me. You always had what I never did. A child who actually needs you. I paused at the door. What? Daddy never needed me. Max never listened to me. Even Mother just uses me for social appearances. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But Teresa, she lights up when she sees you. Do you know what that's worth? Before I could respond, Miles burst in. Sorry to interrupt, but you both need to see this. He turned on the office TV. A business news anchor was mid-report. Sources confirm Whitfield Industries CEO Eugene Whitfield has taken an emergency leave of absence amid allegations of financial impropriety. Sophia collapsed into the chair, her perfectly manicured hands shaking as she pulled out her phone. Daddy's not answering. My phone buzzed again. Teresa's school wondering where I was. I have to go, I said firmly. Please, Sophia whispered. Help me understand what's happening. For a moment, I saw past the designer clothes and practiced superiority to the scared little girl beneath. But Teresa needed me. Miles will explain what he can. I have to get my daughter. In the car, Quinn called. Did you see the news? Are you okay? I'm fine. Just getting Teresa from school. And Sophia? Did she beg? I thought about the tears in Sophia's eyes. Something like that. Don't let her manipulate you, Quinn warned. Remember what she did at Max's wedding? I did remember. Sophia had made sure I wasn't invited, then sent me photos of Teresa dancing with her father and his new bride. At school, Teresa was curled up in the nurse's office, her cheeks flushed with fever. Mommy, she mumbled as I gathered her in my arms. Can we go home? Of course, baby. As I carried her to the car, my phone lit up with a message from Maximus, the first in months. Is it true about Dad's company? I ignored it. At home, after settling Teresa with medicine and her favorite cartoon, I checked my emails. The patent attorney had sent final approval documents. Our investors were ready to move, and Whitfield Industries stock had dropped another 15%. Mommy? Teresa called weakly from the couch. Will you tell me a story? I sat beside her, stroking her hair. Once upon a time, I began, there was a princess who thought she had everything. Was she pretty like Aunt Sophia? I paused. She was beautiful on the outside, but she had to learn that true beauty comes from how you treat others. Did she learn? My phone buzzed with another text from Sophia. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm asking anyway. I don't know yet, baby, I told Teresa. The story isn't over. As Teresa drifted off to sleep, I thought about Sophia's tears, about revenge and karma, about the fine line between justice and cruelty. The power I'd dreamed of having was finally in my hands. The question was, what kind of ending did I want to write? The morning news was brutal. Eugene's face plastered across every business channel, the word fraud in bold letters beneath his photo. I turned off the TV when Teresa came down for breakfast. Are you feeling better, sweetheart? She nodded, climbing onto her chair. Is Aunt Sophia okay? I saw her crying on TV. Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Miles. Turn on Channel 7, he said without greeting. Eugene's wife is giving a statement. I waited until Teresa left for school before switching the TV back on. There stood Nora, Sophia's mother, her usual poise cracking as she faced the reporters. My husband made some regrettable decisions, she said, her voice trembling. But we're still a respectable family. These allegations are... The feed cut to breaking news. Whitfield Industries announces mass layoffs. My office was chaos when I arrived. Miles was waiting by my door. 300 employees let go this morning, he said, following me inside. Their warehouse is shutting down next week. The same warehouse we were looking at? He nodded. It gets better. Guess who's been calling me all morning? Sophia? Their entire board of directors. They're practically begging for investors. He leaned forward. We could buy the whole company for less than we were going to spend on that warehouse. My phone buzzed. A text from Quinn. Have you seen this? Attached was a social media post from Sophia's country club. Due to unfortunate circumstances, the annual charity gala will no longer be hosted by the Whitfield family. Another text came through, this time from Maximus. Tell Teresa I can't make it this weekend. Things are complicated right now. Some things never change, I muttered. What are you thinking? Miles asked. Before I could answer, my assistant knocked. Ms. Fletcher, Sophia's here. She doesn't have an appointment, but... Send her in. Sophia looked different. No designer bag, minimal makeup, hair pulled back simply. Have you seen the news? Hard to miss, I replied. Daddy's gone. Her voice cracked. He left last night. No one knows where he is. Miles quietly excused himself, closing the door behind him. Mother's a mess. Max won't answer my calls. Everything's falling apart. Sophia sank into a chair. The press is camped outside my house. They're calling Daddy a thief. Is he? She looked up sharply. Does it matter? We're still family. Are we? I stood up. When Maximus left, when I was struggling to keep a roof over Teresa's head, where was this family you're talking about? I know I was awful to you, she whispered. I was jealous. Jealous? Of what? You were free, independent. I've never been either of those things. She wiped her eyes. Even my trust fund was just another way for Daddy to control me. My phone buzzed again. An email from our investors. Ready to move on Whitfield acquisition. Require immediate response. I heard rumors about your business venture, Sophia said. The patents, the investors. You've done amazing things, Camilla, without any help. I had help, just not from your family. I know. She stood up. And I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I'm not asking for me. Mother, she's talking about selling the house Teresa visits Max in. When he bothers to show up, I couldn't help adding. Please, just think about it. For Teresa's sake. After she left, Miles returned. Well? I showed him the investor email. If we move now, we could take everything. But Teresa loves that house. Her few memories with her father are there. My phone lit up with a text from Teresa. Mommy, Jenny invited me to sit with her at lunch today. She said she doesn't care what anyone says about us. Miles watched me reading the message. You know, revenge might feel good for a moment. But what lesson does it teach Teresa? I thought about Sophia's tears, about Teresa's innocent joy at making a friend, about the fine line between justice and becoming what we hate. Call the investors, I said finally, but not about the acquisition. I have a different proposal in mind. You're sure? I nodded, picking up my phone to text Sophia. Meet me tomorrow. Bring your mother and your lawyer. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about being strong enough to help them when they fall, and making sure they remember who lifted them up. My phone buzzed one last time. Teresa had sent a heart emoji. That was all the confirmation I needed. The boutique's sales assistant raised her eyebrows as I tried on the third designer dress. This one's our most expensive piece, she said, probably expecting me to balk at the price. I'll take it, I said, smoothing the silk against my hips. The black dress cost more than my first car, but today wasn't about money. It was about making a statement. My phone buzzed, Miles confirming the meeting arrangements. In 2 hours, I'd face Sophia, Nora, and their lawyers in my office. But first, I had another stop to make. The mall's luxury wing felt different now. The same stores where Sophia used to parade her wealth, making subtle digs about my budget-conscious choices, now seemed less intimidating. I walked into the designer shoe store with my head high. "Those are gorgeous," Quinn said, meeting me there. "But are you sure about this meeting? Nora can be manipulative." "So can I." I handed my credit card to the cashier. "When I need to be." Back at the office, I changed into my new outfit. The woman in the mirror looked powerful, confident. Everything Sophia had tried to make me feel I wasn't. Miles knocked on my door. "They're here. And Camila?" He paused. "Nice dress." They filed into the conference room like a funeral procession. Nora first, her face tight with forced dignity. Then Sophia, and finally their lawyer, clutching his briefcase like a shield. "Thank you for coming," I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. "Let's talk about the future of Whitfield Industries." "Our family business is not up for discussion," Nora snapped. "Mother," Sophia warned quietly. I opened my laptop. "Actually, it is. Your husband left the country with most of your liquid assets. The company's stock is worthless. You're facing multiple lawsuits, and your warehouse employees are about to lose their jobs. And I suppose you're here to gloat?" Nora's voice dripped with venom. "No." I turned my laptop around. "I'm here to offer a solution." Their lawyer leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. "This is a restructuring proposal," I finished. "My company will acquire 40% of Whitfield Industries. We'll inject enough capital to save the warehouse operations and settle the immediate lawsuits." 40%? Nora looked like she'd swallowed something sour. "You want us to give you nearly half our company?" "I want to save your company," I corrected. "And your house." Sophia's head snapped up. "What?" "The house stays in the family trust. For Teresa." I met Nora's eyes. "My daughter deserves to keep some connection to her father's family, don't you think?" The room fell silent. I could almost see the calculations running behind Nora's eyes. "Why would you help us?" she finally asked. "After everything." "Because Teresa taught me something you never could." I stood up, smoothing my new dress. "True power isn't in making others feel small. It's in choosing when to be big." My phone buzzed, Teresa's school appearing on the screen. I answered immediately, my heart jumping. "Mommy!" Teresa's excited voice came through. "I got an A on my math test." "That's wonderful, baby." I couldn't help smiling. "We'll celebrate tonight, okay?" When I looked up, Sophia was crying silently. Nora's facade had cracked, showing something that looked almost like shame. "The papers are ready," I said, sliding folders across the table. "You have until tomorrow to decide." "I don't need until tomorrow," Sophia said suddenly. "I'm in." "Sophia!" Nora protested. "No, Mother. Look at her." Sophia gestured at me. "Look at what she's built while we were busy tearing her down. I want to learn from that." My phone buzzed again, Quinn asking how it was going. I typed quickly, "Better than expected." "There are conditions," I said, turning back to them. "The warehouse workers keep their jobs. The charity gala continues, but under new management, and Teresa's college fund is reinstated, with interest." "You drive a hard bargain," their lawyer muttered, reviewing the papers. "I learned from the best." I smiled at Nora. "Didn't you always say business is business?" As they left an hour later, papers signed, Sophia lingered behind. "That dress," she said softly. "It looks better on you than it ever did on me." I raised an eyebrow. "I saw you buying it. It was mine, last season." She smiled sadly. "But you wear it differently, like you don't need it to be strong." After they left, Miles brought in champagne. "To the new partner of Whitfield Industries," he toasted. "No," I corrected him, thinking of Teresa's excited voice, of Sophia's tears, of the long road ahead. "To teaching our children better than we were taught." My phone lit up with a final text from Sophia. "Thank you, for being the bigger person, for showing me what that looks like." I didn't reply. Some lessons are better taught in silence. The warehouse was eerily quiet as I walked through with Sophia, our heels echoing on the concrete floor. 300 employees would return tomorrow, their jobs secure under the new agreement. I never came here before, Sophia admitted, running her finger along a dusty shelf. Daddy said it wasn't a place for family. Everything is a place for family when you're fighting to save it. My phone buzzed, Maximus calling. I declined it. He's been trying to reach me too, Sophia said, noticing, now that the press has caught wind of the restructuring deal. Of course he has. I checked my watch. The workers arrive in an hour. Are you ready? She straightened her blazer. A simple one, not designer. Do you think they'll hate us? They'll hate your father. You have a chance to show them something different. The warehouse doors opened, and Miles walked in with the union representative, Jack. Ms. Fletcher, Jack nodded to me, then turned coldly to Sophia. Ms. Whitfield. Please, she stepped forward. Call me Sophia. I know you have every reason to distrust my family, but… Save it, he cut her off. 300 families almost lost everything because of your father's greed. And now 300 families get to keep their jobs, I interjected, because his daughter chose to do better. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Teresa. Mommy, when is Dad coming to get me this weekend? I showed the message to Sophia, whose face fell. He's in Dubai, she said quietly, trying to secure investors for his new venture. Of course he is, I typed back to Teresa. How about we have a girls' weekend instead? Jack cleared his throat. The workers will want guarantees, real ones, not just promises from another Whitfield. Show them, I told Sophia. She pulled out a folder. These are the new contracts, guaranteed employment for 2 years, with improved benefits and profit sharing. She handed them to Jack. And I'll be working here 3 days a week, learning the operation from the ground up. You? Jack couldn't hide his surprise. In the warehouse? I need to understand what my father never did. That a company is its people, not its profit margins. My phone lit up with a news alert. Whitfield Air Partners with ex-sister-in-law to save family business. They're here, Miles called from the door. A crowd of workers was gathering outside. Ready? I asked Sophia. She squared her shoulders. No, but I'm doing it anyway. The workers filed in, faces guarded, some angry, others afraid. Sophia stepped forward. 4 days ago, I had never set foot in this warehouse, she began. I was too busy buying designer clothes and planning charity galas to care about the people who made our family's wealth possible. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My father betrayed your trust. He betrayed all of us. But today, thanks to Camilla, we have a chance to rebuild. Not just the company, but our community. Why should we believe you? Someone called out. Because unlike my father, I'm not asking for your trust. Sophia's voice carried clearly. I'm asking for a chance to earn it. Starting today, I'll be working alongside you, learning from you. My phone buzzed with a text from Nora. The press is asking for a statement about Maximus abandoning his daughter again. I ignored it, watching Sophia connect with the workers, one conversation at a time. She was different now, humbled but determined. Jack approached me. This is real? She's really going to work here? Watch her, I replied. She's not her father. By afternoon, the warehouse was humming with activity. Sophia had ditched her blazer, helping to inventory stock with a team of workers who'd gradually warmed to her genuine interest in their work. Why did you do it? She asked during a quiet moment. You could have taken everything, destroyed us completely. Because Teresa's watching, I said simply, and she needs to see that strength isn't about crushing others. It's about lifting them up when they fall. My phone chimed with another text from Teresa. Jenny asked if I can sleep over tonight. Can I? As I typed my reply, Sophia touched my arm. Thank you, not just for saving the company, but for showing me what real power looks like. Just remember this feeling, I told her. Next time you're tempted to look down on someone. The warehouse doors opened again as another shift of workers arrived. Sophia straightened up, ready to introduce herself, to prove herself. to be better than the name she carried. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's showing your enemies a better way to be. "Daddy's back," Teresa announced at breakfast, showing me her phone. "He wants to have dinner with us tonight." I nearly choked on my coffee. After 6 weeks of silence, now he appears? "Did Aunt Sophia tell him about the company?" Teresa asked innocently. "Probably, sweetheart." I stroked her hair. "Do you want to see him?" Before she could answer, my phone rang. Sophia. "He's trying to muscle his way back in," she said without preamble. "Max is at Mother's house right now, talking about his rightful place in the company." "Of course he is." I watched Teresa finish her cereal. "How's Nora taking it?" "She told him to leave." Sophia's voice held a hint of pride. "Said he abandoned his family when we needed him, and now he doesn't get to come back just because we're stable again." My phone beeped with another call. Maximus. "He's calling me now," I told Sophia. "Don't answer. Come to the warehouse instead. There's something you need to see." An hour later, I walked into a transformed warehouse. Gone were the dusty shelves and dim lighting. The space was bright, organized, and humming with energy. Sophia stood with a group of workers, reviewing shipping schedules. She'd traded her designer wardrobe for practical work clothes, her perfectly manicured nails now short and practical. "Show her," she told the workers excitedly. They led me to a new section of the warehouse. "The Teresa Project," read a sign above rows of carefully packaged educational supplies. "We're partnering with local schools," Sophia explained, "providing supplies to underprivileged students." The workers came up with the idea. "And named it after Teresa?" I felt tears threatening. "She inspired it. After everything you've taught me about what really matters." My phone buzzed again. Maximus. "Answer it," Sophia said. "It's time." I stepped outside and picked up. "Hello, Max." "Camila, baby, we need to talk." His voice oozed charm. "About the company, about us, about starting fresh." "There is no us, Max. There hasn't been since you walked out 4 years ago." "Don't be like that. I've changed. And with the company's new direction." "You mean the direction your sister and I created while you were hiding in Dubai?" He paused. "I have rights. I'm still a Whitfield." "No," I said firmly. "You're just a man who abandoned his daughter, and now that she's older, smarter, and surrounded by strong women who actually show up for her, you don't get to waltz back in. I want to see Teresa. That's her choice. But the company? That's mine and Sophia's." I hung up and went back inside. Sophia was watching me. "He'll try the lawyers next," she said. "Let him." I gestured at the warehouse. "We've built something real here, something honest." My phone lit up with a text from Teresa. "Can I have dinner with Dad and Aunt Sophia? I want him to see the warehouse." I showed Sophia the message. "Smart girl," she smiled. "Wants him to see what he missed out on." That evening, I watched from my office window as Teresa proudly showed Maximus around the warehouse. His expensive suit looked out of place among the workers and shipping crates. Sophia stood nearby, no longer the polished socialite, but a respected leader who knew every worker by name. My phone buzzed. Quinn calling. "How's it going?" she asked. "Teresa's showing Max the warehouse. He looks lost." "Good. Let him see what real strength looks like." Through the window, I saw Teresa pointing out her namesake project to Max. His face fell as she explained how it helped kids who couldn't afford school supplies. "Remember when you said we were too poor for new notebooks?" I heard her ask him as they passed below my window. "Now we help other kids get them instead." Sophia caught my eye through the window and nodded. We'd done this, transformed a family legacy of greed into something meaningful. My phone chimed with an email from our lawyers. "Mr. Whitfield's attorneys requesting board meeting." "Delete it," I told my assistant, "and send them our new company charter instead. The one that requires board members to work in the warehouse 1 day a month." Later, as Teresa and I drove home, she was quiet. "You okay, baby?" I asked. "Dad seemed different," she said thoughtfully. "Smaller somehow. Sometimes people who seem big only look that way because they stand on others." Real strength comes from lifting people up. Like you and Aunt Sophia do? I smiled. Exactly like that. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Sophia. Thank you for showing me how to be bigger than my name. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't won through force, but through grace. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, standing tall, and showing others how to rise. The autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter from the warehouse courtyard, where employees and their families gathered for the first annual company picnic. Teresa darted between tables, proudly showing off the new playground equipment her project had funded for the workers' children. Who would have thought? Sophia handed me a coffee, watching the scene. A Whitfield family gathering where no one's wearing designer labels or comparing stock portfolios. Ah, Mother's still struggling with the concept, she added, nodding toward Nora, who sat somewhat stiffly at a table with warehouse workers' families, actually listening to their stories. My phone buzzed. Maximus again. I declined the call. He's persistent, Sophia noted. He's predictable, I corrected. The company's stock tripled since the restructuring. Of course he wants back in. Teresa ran up, breathless with excitement. Mom, come see what Jenny's dad made. She pulled me toward a display where Jack, our union representative, stood proudly beside rows of handcrafted wooden toys. The workers started a side project, Sophia explained, following us. They're making toys for children's hospitals, using their breaks and staying after shifts. Their choice, Jack added quickly. No overtime required. But why? I asked. Because you and Sophia showed us what good leadership looks like, he said simply. It's contagious. My phone lit up with a text from Quinn. Have you seen the Business Journal article? I pulled it up. Whitfield Industries revolutionizes corporate culture, a story of redemption and female leadership. They got it wrong, Sophia said, reading over my shoulder. It's not about female leadership, it's about human leadership. Teresa tugged my sleeve. Dad's here. Sure enough, Maximus stood at the entrance, looking uncomfortable in his casual attempt at casual clothes. Probably still designer, just less obvious. I'll handle this, Sophia started forward, but I stopped her. No, let Teresa handle it. We watched as Teresa walked to her father, head high, shoulders back, looking so much stronger than her 7 years. You can join us, she told him, loud enough for nearby workers to hear. But not in a suit, not as a boss, and not pretending you were here all along. Maximus glanced around, noticing the workers watching. Sweetheart, I'm still your father. I have rights. Rights? Teresa's voice carried clearly. Like the right to miss my birthdays, to cancel weekends, to make Mom cry? I started forward, but Sophia held me back. She needs this, she whispered. You can stay, Teresa continued, but only if you're ready to be different. Like Aunt Sophia learned to be different. Like Mom taught us to be. The courtyard had fallen silent. Even Nora was watching, something like respect flickering across her face. Maximus looked at me, then at Sophia, then back at his daughter. For once, his practiced charm failed him. I don't know how, he admitted. Start by listening, Teresa said. That's what Aunt Sophia did. Start by caring about people more than money. That's what Mom taught her. My phone buzzed with a message from Miles. Board meeting in 20, bringing the new community initiative proposals. I need to go, I told Sophia. Board meeting. Take Teresa, she said. She should see this part too. What about? I nodded toward Maximus. I'll handle my brother, she smiled. I've learned from the best how to be firm with kindness. In the boardroom, Teresa sat beside me as we reviewed proposals for expanding the education initiative. Her input was surprisingly insightful. We should ask the kids what they need, she suggested, like you asked the workers what they needed. My phone lit up with a photo from Sophia. Maximus in the warehouse, tie removed, sleeves rolled up, actually listening to Jack explain the toy-making project. Think he'll change? I texted back. Doesn't matter, came her reply. We already did. After the meeting, Teresa and I walked back to the courtyard. The party was winding down, but the sense of community lingered. Workers' children played on the new equipment while their parents chatted with Sophia, Nora, and yes, even Maximus, who looked slightly less polished but somehow more real. "Mom?" Teresa squeezed my hand. "Are we rich now?" I looked around at the happy faces, the sense of purpose, the bridges built from the ashes of revenge. "We're wealthy," I corrected, "but not because of money." My phone chimed one last time, a message from an employee's child. "Thank you for my new school books. Now I can be smart like Teresa." Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about transforming the battlefield into common ground, where everyone has a chance to become better than they were. And sometimes the greatest victory is watching your child teach others the lessons you fought so hard to learn.
I found the document by accident while cleaning out Dad's home office. Just a single sheet of paper, really, but seeing Aunt Zuriel's signature next to that astronomical sum made my blood run cold. I'm Eleanor, by the way, and this is how I discovered my family's darkest secret, starting with a wedding invitation that would change everything. "Ellie, darling, we simply must discuss Savannah's wedding arrangements." Aunt Zuriel's voice dripped honey over the phone, but I knew better. That tone meant trouble. "You've done so well with your business. It's time to give back to the family." I pressed my fingers against my temple, already feeling a headache coming on. "What exactly are you suggesting, Aunt Zuriel?" "Well, as the most financially successful member of our family, we thought you'd want to contribute to Savannah's special day. The venue alone is running us nearly 6 figures. I nearly choked on my coffee. 6 figures? For a venue? It's the Hamilton Estate, darling. Savannah has always dreamed of getting married there. And since you've been so blessed, let me get this straight," I cut in, my voice sharp. "You want me to fund my cousin's wedding? The same cousin who hasn't spoken to me in 3 years except to comment cute on my Instagram posts?" "Don't be difficult, Eleanor. Family helps family. Your father agrees with me completely." Of course he did. Dad hadn't made a decision without Aunt Zuriel's approval since Mom died 12 years ago. "I'm sorry, but no. I worked hard for my money. I'm not funding an extravagant wedding for someone who barely acknowledges my existence." The honey in her voice crystallized to ice. "I see. Well, I'll be sure to let everyone know about your decision." The line went dead before I could respond. I knew what would follow: the passive-aggressive family group chat messages, the disappointed calls from Dad, the guilt-tripping from my sister Lacey. Right on cue, my phone buzzed. "Lacey, please tell me you didn't just refuse to help with Savannah's wedding," she said without preamble. "Hello to you too, sis." "Ellie, come on. You know how Aunt Zuriel gets. Just throw some money at it and keep the peace." I stood up from my desk, pacing my home office. Why is it always about keeping the peace? Why am I always the one who has to give in? "Because you're the one who can afford to." Lacey's voice rose. "Some of us are still struggling to make rent." That's exactly my point. I struggled for years building my business while Savannah was getting her 4th degree funded by Aunt Zuriel. Now suddenly, I'm supposed to bankroll her dream wedding? "You're being selfish." "No, I'm being reasonable." I stopped pacing, my eye catching on Dad's office door across the hall. I'd been helping him organize since he mentioned selling the house. "Look, I need to go. I'm at Dad's place sorting through papers." After hanging up, I pushed open the office door, the familiar scent of old books and leather hitting me. That's when I saw it. A paper had slipped partially under the ancient filing cabinet. I wouldn't have noticed it if the corner hadn't been sticking out. Pulling it free, I found myself staring at what looked like a bank statement. But the numbers? They didn't make sense. According to this, Aunt Zuriel had accessed over $2 million from what appeared to be a family trust fund, money I'd never known existed. The date on the document was from just after Mom died. My phone buzzed again. "Dad." "Eleanor, honey, about Savannah's wedding. Dad? I interrupted, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I need to ask you something. What do you know about a family trust fund? The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, barely above a whisper, "Where did you find that?" "So it's real? The $2 million Aunt Zuriel took?" "Eleanor, listen to me very carefully." Dad's voice shook. "Don't mention this to anyone, especially not your aunt. Some things are better left in the past." But as I stared at the damning evidence in my hands, I knew this was just the beginning. They wanted me to fund a wedding? Fine. But first, I was going to uncover exactly what happened to those millions, and why nobody had ever thought to mention them to me. The wedding invitation sat on my desk, mocking me with its gold-foiled elegance. "Well, Aunt Zuriel, you wanted me involved in this wedding? Be careful what you wish for. You're sure about this?" Gregory leaned back in his chair, frowning at the document I'd spread across his desk. As my company's financial advisor, he'd become one of my most trusted confidants over the years. $2 million is a lot of money to just disappear. "Look at the signature," I pointed. "That's definitely Aunt Zuriel's. And the date, it's exactly 2 weeks after Mom's funeral." He pulled out his reading glasses, examining the paper more closely. "Your mother's death. Was it unexpected?" "Car accident." The words still tasted bitter. At least, that's what we were told. Dad was a mess afterward, basically handed everything over to Aunt Zuriel to handle. "Including the finances," Gregory murmured, more to himself than to me. He looked up suddenly. "Give me a few days. I know some people who can dig deeper into this." My phone buzzed. Another message from Lacey. "Family dinner tonight. Don't you dare skip this one." I showed Gregory the text. "Want to bet this is an ambush about the wedding?" "Go," he said, carefully folding the document. "Keep them thinking everything's normal while I look into this." The family home looked exactly as it always had: pristine lawn, perfect flowers, and enough tension in the air to power a small city. Savannah's car was already in the driveway. "Eleanor," Aunt Zuriel's voice carried across the front yard as I got out of my car. "How nice of you to join us." Inside, Savannah sat at the dining room table, surrounded by wedding magazines. She barely glanced up as I entered. "Oh, hi, Eleanor. Have you reconsidered about the wedding?" I wasn't aware there was anything to reconsider. I took a seat across from her, noting how Aunt Zuriel hovered nearby. "My answer hasn't changed. But the Hamilton estate," Savannah whined. "It's perfect, and they need the deposit by next week. Then I suggest you find a more affordable venue." Aunt Zuriel's hand came down hard on the table. "That's enough. Eleanor, may I speak with you in private?" She practically dragged me into Dad's office, shutting the door behind us. "Listen here, you ungrateful child. After everything this family has done for you." "What exactly has this family done for me?" I interrupted, my voice low but firm. "Because from where I'm standing, I built my business alone while you poured money into Savannah's endless education." "Is that what this is about? Jealousy?" My phone vibrated in my pocket. "Gregory." I ignored it. "No, Aunt Zuriel, this is about fairness. And speaking of money," I watched her face carefully. "Whatever happened to Mom's trust fund?" She went very still. "What trust fund?" "The one you accessed 2 weeks after she died. $2 million. That's a lot of money to disappear without a trace." The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Your mother had no such fund." "Really? Because I found the document with your signature." Before she could respond, my phone buzzed again. This time I checked it. "Gregory. Urgent. Found something big. Offshore account in Cayman Islands. Call me ASAP." "This conversation isn't over," I told Aunt Zuriel, moving toward the door. She grabbed my arm. Eleanor, wait. Perhaps we can discuss this. Come to an arrangement. An arrangement? About the wedding. Maybe if you helped with the venue, we could ensure certain old documents remain private. I stared at her, disgusted. Are you trying to blackmail me into paying for the wedding? I'm trying to protect this family, she hissed. Some things are better left in the past. Dad's exact words. What were they so desperate to hide? Eleanor? Lacey's voice called from the dining room. Where did you go? We'll finish this later, Aunt Zuriel said, straightening her blouse. And Eleanor, remember, family loyalty goes both ways. I waited until she left before calling Gregory. Eleanor, you're not going to believe this, he said without preamble. That money? It wasn't just transferred once. There have been regular deposits to an offshore account for the past 12 years. Most recent one was last month. My hands started shaking. How much? Total? Close to $5 million by now. And here's the kicker. The account name is Montgomery Holdings. Montgomery, Aunt Zuriel's married name. There's more, Gregory continued. I found some old insurance documents. Your mother's accident. Eleanor, there was a 7-figure life insurance policy, paid out to Zuriel Montgomery as trustee. The room seemed to spin, all these years of struggling, of building my business from nothing, while Aunt Zuriel sat on millions, our family's millions. Eleanor? Gregory's voice softened. What do you want to do? I thought about Savannah's entitled demands, Dad's silence, Aunt Zuriel's threats. Keep digging, I said. I want everything. The family pressure intensified over the next week. Constant calls, guilt-tripping texts, even a tearful visit from Savannah herself. But it was Lacey showing up at my door at midnight that finally broke the pattern. I need a drink, she announced, pushing past me into my apartment. Her mascara was smeared, and she clutched her purse like a lifeline. I poured us both a glass of wine. What happened? Aunt Zuriel happened. Lacey took a long sip. She came by my place today, started asking weird questions about you, about what you've been saying to me. What kind of questions? About Mom, mostly, and money. She set down her glass hard enough to slosh wine onto my coffee table. She offered to help with my rent if I'd keep an eye on you. I felt my jaw clench. And I told her to shove it. Lacey's eyes filled with tears. But Ellie, there's something else. Something I should have told you years ago. I sat down beside her, my heart pounding. What? Remember when I was trying to start my photography business right after college? She wouldn't meet my eyes. I went to Aunt Zuriel for a loan. She agreed, but then she made me sign these papers. I didn't really read them. I was so desperate. What papers, Lacey? I think they were about Mom's estate, some kind of waiver of rights. She wiped her eyes. The business failed anyway, and Aunt Zuriel held that loan over my head for years. But tonight, when she tried to bribe me again, something clicked. Why does she have so much money to throw around? I got up and retrieved the trust fund document from my office. Lacey's hands shook as she read it. $2 million? She whispered. But we struggled so much after Mom died. You worked 3 jobs to start your business. I had to drop out of art school. It gets worse. I told her about Gregory's discovery of the offshore account and the insurance policy. Lacey cut herself off, standing up suddenly. We need to check Mom's old things, now. It's midnight. Dad's at his poker game. He won't be home for hours. We need to look while Aunt Zuriel isn't hovering around. 20 minutes later, we were in Mom's old craft room, now used for storage. Lacey went straight to the back corner, pulling out a dusty box. Mom's journals, she explained. I found them years ago but never read them. It felt too private then. We spent the next hour flipping through pages of our mother's elegant handwriting. Most entries were ordinary, daily life, concerns about us kids, little observations about the world. Then I found it. "Listen to this," I said, reading aloud. "Zuriel's been asking about the trust again. Says Norman's business is in trouble, needs capital. I can't tell if she's lying. She always was good at that. But I made that trust for the girl's future. I won't let her touch it." I looked at the date. This was 3 weeks before the accident. Lacey grabbed the journal. "There's more. Found discrepancies in the business accounts today. Large transfers I can't trace. When I asked Zuriel about them, she got defensive. Something's not right. Meeting with my lawyer tomorrow to—" She turned the page. "That's the last entry." My phone rang, making us both jump. "Gregory." "Eleanor, I found something disturbing. Those insurance documents? There was an investigation into your mother's accident, but it was suddenly dropped. The detective in charge received a large payment to an offshore account 2 days later." The journal slipped from my hands. "That's not all," Gregory continued. "I've been tracking the money trail. Most of those millions, they've been funding Savannah's lifestyle, designer clothes, luxury cars, that string of failed businesses she started. But there's a pattern of smaller payments, too, to people who might ask questions." "Like the detective," I said numbly. "Exactly. Eleanor, I think this goes deeper than simple embezzlement." Lacey was still reading the journal, her face getting paler by the page. "Ellie," she interrupted, "look at this." She pointed to a loose paper tucked into the binding, a handwritten letter. "If anything happens to me," I read aloud, "the truth is in the blue box. Love, Mom." Lacey and I stared at each other. "The blue music box," she whispered. "The one Mom always kept locked. Aunt Zuriel took it after the funeral, said it was worthless." "Where is it now?" "In her house, in that cabinet of collectibles she never lets anyone touch." I spoke into the phone. "Gregory, we need to get into Aunt Zuriel's house." "Eleanor," his voice was worried. "Be careful. People who pay off detectives—" "I know." I looked at Lacey, saw my own determination reflected in her eyes. "But Mom tried to warn us. It's time we found out why." I found Dad in his usual spot, the back porch, nursing a whiskey, staring at Mom's old garden. The journals felt heavy in my bag as I sat beside him. "You knew, didn't you?" I kept my voice gentle, but he flinched anyway. "About the money, about all of it." He took a long drink before answering. "Your mother never trusted Zuriel with money. Said she was too creative with numbers." "Is that what we're calling fraud now? Creative? Eleanor?" "No." I pulled out Mom's journal. "I found these. She knew something was wrong with the business accounts. She was going to meet a lawyer." I paused, watching his face. "The next day, she died." The glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the porch. "Don't. Please." "The detective who investigated her accident got a payoff, Dad. An offshore payment, just like the millions Aunt Zuriel's been hiding all these years." He buried his face in his hands. "I didn't know, not at first." "When did you find out?" "About a year after your mother." His voice cracked. "I found some papers like you did. When I confronted Zuriel, she had explanations. Said your mother had been embezzling, that she'd fixed everything to protect the family name." "And you believed her?" The words came out sharper than I intended. I didn't want to believe anything else. He looked at me finally, eyes red. "If what you're suggesting is true, if my own sister—" "Show me the papers." He led me to his office, hands shaking as he opened a hidden safe behind a painting. "I kept copies, never knew why. Maybe part of me." The documents were damning, not just of Aunt Zuriel's theft, but of her elaborate cover-up. Transfer records, falsified statements, even a letter from Mom's lawyer about scheduling an urgent meeting that never happened. All these years, I said quietly, while Lacey and I struggled, while you remortgaged the house, Aunt Zuriel had millions of our money, and you said nothing. She's still my sister. And Mom was your wife. The words exploded out of me. We were your daughters. We needed you to fight for us. A noise from the doorway made us both turn. Lacey stood there, tears streaming down her face. "Is it true?" she asked Dad. "Did you know about the money?" He couldn't meet her eyes. "Lacey, honey." My phone buzzed. A text from Gregory. "Urgent. Just found email correspondence between Zuriel and the mechanic who worked on your mom's car the week before the accident. Call me now." Before I could process that, another message popped up, this one from an unknown number. "Stop digging. Some questions shouldn't be answered." I showed both messages to Dad. The color drained from his face. "The mechanic," he whispered. "I remember. Your mother complained about the brakes feeling strange. Zuriel recommended her personal mechanic." Lacey made a choking sound. "Are you saying Aunt Zuriel might have—" "We need that blue music box," I cut in. "The one Mom mentioned in her letter. It's in Aunt Zuriel's house." Dad stood up suddenly. "I have a key to Zuriel's house for emergencies." "Dad, no," Lacey protested. "If she finds out—" "She's at her bridge club every Thursday afternoon," he said, moving to his desk. "For years I've kept quiet, let her control everything. But if my sister had anything to do with your mother's—" He pulled out a key ring, hands steadier now. "It's time I chose my daughters." My phone buzzed again. "Gregory, don't respond to any threats. I'm documenting everything. But Eleanor, be careful. These people play for keeps." I looked at Dad, still holding the key like it might burn him. At Lacey, wiping tears but standing straighter. At Mom's journal, full of warnings she'd tried to leave us. "Tomorrow's Thursday," I said. "We go in, find the box, get out. No one needs to know." "And then what?" Lacey asked. I thought about Savannah's wedding, now just weeks away. About Aunt Zuriel's smug demands and threats. About 12 years of struggling while she lived off our mother's money. "Then we get justice," I said. "For Mom, for all of us." Dad nodded slowly, placing the key in my hand. "Your mother would be proud of you both. She always said truth finds its way to light." "Like water," Lacey whispered, quoting Mom's favorite saying. "It always finds a crack to flow through." Tomorrow, we'd find more than cracks. We'd blow the whole dam wide open. The key trembled in my hand as we stood at Aunt Zuriel's back door. Thursday afternoon, right on schedule, we'd watched her luxury sedan pull away for Bridge Club. 15 minutes, Gregory reminded us through the phone's speaker. He'd insisted on staying connected. Any longer and we risk her coming back. The lock clicked open. Lacey grabbed my arm. "Wait, security system." Dad stepped forward, punching in the code. "She never changes it. Our mother's birthday." The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Aunt Zuriel's house was exactly what you'd expect. Expensive, immaculate, and cold. The cabinet of collectibles dominated her formal living room, dozens of precious trinkets displayed behind glass. "There," Lacey pointed. "Top shelf, far right." Mom's blue music box sat exactly where Lacey remembered, gathering dust among crystal figurines. The cabinet was locked. "Now what?" Lacey whispered. I pulled out the ring of keys Dad had given me. "She keeps everything," he'd said. "Never throws away a single key." The third key fit. 10 minutes, Gregory warned. The music box was heavier than I remembered. No key in sight. "Here." Dad pulled out his wallet, extracting a small key from behind his credit cards. "Your mother gave me this, said to keep it safe." My hands shook as I inserted the key. The lid opened with a familiar melody. Mom's favorite lullaby. Inside, beneath a stack of old photos, we found a USB drive and a sealed envelope with "For my daughters" written in Mom's handwriting. 7 minutes, Gregory said. You need to... He cut off abruptly as the sound of a car door slamming echoed from outside. She's back, Lacey hissed. Bridge Club must have canceled. Dad grabbed the USB and envelope, stuffing them in his pocket. Put the box back, exactly as it was. I closed the cabinet just as keys jingled in the front door. We rushed toward the back, but Aunt Zuriel's voice rang out. Hello? Is someone here? Footsteps approached the living room. Dad pushed us toward the kitchen. Go, I'll handle her. Dad, go. We slipped out the back door just as we heard Aunt Zuriel's surprised. Norman, what are you doing here? Lacey and I didn't stop running until we reached my car, parked 2 blocks away. Gregory was still on the line. Eleanor, what happened? We got it, I gasped. But Dad, he stayed behind. Smart move, Gregory said. He can explain his presence without raising suspicion. You two couldn't. My phone dinged with a text from Dad. All clear. Told her I was dropping off wedding RSVPs, meeting you at your place. 20 minutes later, we huddled around my dining room table. The USB drive contained exactly what we'd suspected: financial records, emails, and a video file of Mom speaking directly to camera. My darling girls. Mom's face filled the screen, looking exactly as I remembered. If you're watching this, something has happened to me. I've discovered serious financial irregularities in the family business. Your Aunt Zuriel has been embezzling funds for years, using offshore accounts and false documentation. I'm meeting with lawyers tomorrow, but I'm afraid. Strange things have been happening. My car's been acting weird. I've received threatening notes. If anything happens to me, take this evidence to the authorities. Protect yourselves, and know that I love you both so much. The video ended. Lacey was sobbing. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years. There's more, Gregory said, examining the financial records. These show systematic theft going back decades. But this is the smoking gun. He pointed to a series of transfers. Money from your mother's accounts to the mechanic who worked on her car, then to the detective. All traced back to Zuriel's offshore account. She killed her, Dad whispered. My own sister murdered my wife. My phone buzzed. Aunt Zuriel, we need to talk, now, about what you took from my house. Another message followed. Don't do anything rash, Eleanor. Think about the family, about Savannah's wedding, about your father's reputation. She knows, Lacey said. Good, I replied, surprising everyone. Let her worry. Let her wonder what we found, what we know. What's our next move? Gregory asked. I thought about Mom's video, about years of struggle, about Aunt Zuriel's smug manipulation. Savannah's wedding is in 2 weeks, I said. Everyone will be there. Family, friends, business associates, the perfect audience. Eleanor, Dad warned, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking... She used our mother's funeral to steal our inheritance, I cut in. It seems fitting to use her daughter's wedding to expose the truth. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Zuriel. Last chance, Eleanor. Name your price. I showed them the message, then typed my reply. You're right, Aunt Zuriel. Family helps family. See you at the wedding. You're really going through with this? Gregory asked, adjusting my dress strap at the wedding rehearsal dinner. We'd decided to attend as a couple to avoid suspicion, though the way he looked at me suggested it wasn't entirely an act. Watch Aunt Zuriel, I whispered. She hasn't taken her eyes off us all evening. Sure enough, my aunt sat at the head table, pretending to listen to the wedding planner while shooting nervous glances our way. The past 2 weeks of silence had clearly unnerved her. Eleanor, Savannah's voice cut through the crowd. I can't believe you actually came. And who's this? My date, Gregory. I smiled sweetly. I decided to contribute to your wedding after all. I'm preparing quite the surprise, Savannah squealed, missing the tension in my voice. I knew you'd come around. Did you hear that, Mom? Eleanor's going to help. Aunt Zuriel's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. How generous of her. Oh, it's the least I can do for family. I met her gaze. Mom always said family was everything. The glass shook slightly in her hand. Later, as guests mingled around the restaurant's bar, Lacey pulled me aside. Logan's asking questions. Savannah's fiancé? About what? He overheard Dad on the phone with his lawyer. He's worried about the family's financial situation. I glanced at Logan across the room, handsome, successful, and completely unaware he was marrying into a family built on murder and theft. Should we warn him? Lacey asked. He'll find out tomorrow with everyone else. Eleanor. Dad appeared beside us, his face grave. Zuriel's asking to speak with you. In private. Perfect timing. I pulled out my phone, starting the recording app. Where? The restaurant's wine cellar. But be careful. I've got this. I squeezed his hand. Gregory? He nodded, positioning himself near the cellar entrance as I descended the stairs. Aunt Zuriel waited between racks of expensive wines, looking oddly vulnerable in the dim light. Name your price, she said without preamble. Excuse me? For whatever you found in that music box, whatever you think you know. She opened her designer purse. I can write a check right now. Like the check you wrote to Mom's mechanic? She stiffened. I don't know what you're talking about. Or the detective? How much does it cost to cover up a murder these days? Murder? She laughed, but it sounded hollow. Your mother's death was an accident. Was it? Because we have proof of payments to the mechanic who tampered with her brakes. Proof of millions stolen from her accounts. Proof of your offshore holdings. I stepped closer. We even have Mom's video testimony. The color drained from her face. You're bluffing. Wanna bet Savannah's perfect wedding on that? You wouldn't dare. Her voice turned harsh. Think about what this would do to the family, to your father, to Savannah's big day. Like you thought about us, while we struggled, while Lacey dropped out of school, while Dad remortgaged his house. You lived off Mom's money. Money meant for us. I deserved that money. The words exploded from her. I built that business with your father, while your mother played artist and homemaker. Then she started asking questions, threatening to expose everything. My phone kept recording as Aunt Zuriel's careful facade cracked. She would have ruined everything, she continued. The business, our reputation, Savannah's future. I couldn't let that happen. So you had her killed. She flinched. I protected this family. Everything I did was for... Save it for tomorrow, I cut in, turning toward the stairs. Tomorrow? At the wedding, when everyone learns the truth. I'll stop you, she called after me. I've done it before. I turned back, letting her see my phone. Thanks for the confession, Aunt Zuriel. It'll go great with Mom's video. Her face contorted. You little... Everything okay down here? Gregory's voice carried from the top of the stairs. Perfect, I replied, climbing up. Just finalizing my wedding contribution. Back in the main room, Lacey and Dad waited anxiously. Did you get it? Lacey whispered. I played them a snippet of the recording. Dad closed his eyes, tears sliding down his cheeks. What now? Gregory asked, his hand finding mine. Now we go home and prepare for tomorrow. I watched Aunt Zuriel emerge from the cellar, her perfect mask back in place as she fussed over Savannah's seating arrangements. Mom always said weddings were about families coming together. Time to show everyone exactly what kind of family we really are. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Last warning, back off or face the consequences. I deleted it without replying. Tomorrow, the only consequences would be Aunt Zuriel's to face. The Hamilton estate glittered with fairy lights as guests filed into the grand ballroom. Aunt Zuriel had spared no expense, our expense technically, on Savannah's perfect day. "Everything's ready," Gregory whispered, squeezing my hand. He'd set up the audio-visual equipment under the guise of preparing a wedding slideshow. "Just say the word." I watched Aunt Zuriel flutter around the room, checking last-minute details. She'd been avoiding my eyes all morning, but I caught her nervous glances toward the presentation screen. "Eleanor!" Savannah appeared in a whirlwind of white tulle. "Where's your surprise? You promised." "After the ceremony," I assured her. "Trust me, no one will forget it." The wedding proceeded like a fairy tale. Savannah floated down the aisle while Logan beamed. Aunt Zuriel dabbed at her eyes with an expensive handkerchief. Dad sat rigid beside me, his face a mask of barely contained emotion. Then came the reception. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced, "before the first dance, we have a special presentation from the bride's cousin, Eleanor." Aunt Zuriel half rose from her seat. "Wait!" I stepped to the microphone. "Family means everything to us," I began, my voice steady. "So I wanted to share some recently discovered family history." The lights dimmed, the screen flickered to life. Mom's face appeared, 12 years younger but unmistakable. Several guests gasped. "My darling girls," her recorded voice filled the ballroom. "If you're watching this, something has happened to me." I watched Aunt Zuriel's face as Mom detailed the financial theft. The color drained from her cheeks when the evidence appeared. Bank statements, transfer records, emails about brake tampering. Then came last night's recording. "I deserved that money," Aunt Zuriel's voice rang out. "I couldn't let her expose everything." The room erupted in murmurs. Savannah stood frozen, her perfect makeup streaking with tears. Logan wrapped an arm around her, his lawyer's mind clearly processing the implications. "Security!" Aunt Zuriel shouted, standing. "Stop this immediately." "Security's been informed," Gregory called out, "along with the police." As if on cue, blue lights flashed outside the estate's windows. "You're lying," Aunt Zuriel snarled, but her voice shook. "This is all fabricated." "Like the accident report?" Dad stood, his quiet voice carrying across the stunned room. "Like the detective's investigation? Like the mechanic's sudden retirement to Florida?" "Norman, please," she pleaded. "Think about what you're doing to this family. You killed my wife." His words fell like stones in water. "You stole from my daughters. You are not my family." Savannah stumbled forward. "Mom, what did you do?" "Everything I did was for you." Aunt Zuriel reached for her daughter. "To secure your future, to give you the life you deserved." "With blood money?" Savannah recoiled. "With Aunt Sarah's life." "Mrs. Montgomery?" A detective appeared at the ballroom entrance. "We need you to come with us." "This is ridiculous." She backed away. "You have no proof." "Actually," Gregory stepped forward, "we have 12 years of financial records, witness statements from the mechanic and detective, both willing to talk in exchange for deals, and your own recorded confession. Plus Mom's video testimony," Lacey added, her voice strong. "Recorded the day before you had her killed." The detective moved closer. "Ma'am, please don't make this more difficult." Aunt Zuriel bolted. She made it halfway to the side exit before security caught her. As they led her away in handcuffs, she screamed back at me, "You ungrateful brat, after everything I did for this family." "You did nothing for this family," I cut in, my voice carrying over her protests. "You destroyed it, for money, for control, for your own selfish desires." The ballroom sat in shocked silence as police escorted her out. Savannah collapsed into Logan's arms, her dream wedding transformed into a nightmare. Dad stood stone-faced, watching his sister's departure. Lacey gripped my hand, both of us fighting tears. "I'm so sorry," I told the stunned guests. But Mom always said truth finds its way to light, like water through cracks. "Through cracks," Dad echoed softly, and several old family friends nodded, remembering Mom's favorite saying. As the police lights faded into the distance, Gregory wrapped an arm around my waist. "You okay?" I looked at my shattered family, Dad's quiet strength, Lacey's fierce loyalty, even Savannah's dawning comprehension of her mother's true nature. "No," I answered honestly, "but we will be, because that's what Mom would have wanted, not revenge, but justice, not destruction, but truth." And as the last rays of sunset painted the Hamilton estate in golden light, I felt her presence, finally at peace. The morning sun streamed through Mom's craft room windows as I sorted through boxes with Savannah. She'd shown up at dawn, still in yesterday's wedding dress, asking to help clean out the family home. "I found more photos," she said, pulling out an album. "Look at this one. You, me, and Lacey at the beach. Before everything. Before your mom turned us against each other," I finished gently. She traced the photo's edge. "I keep thinking about all those times she told me I deserved the best. That Eleanor's just jealous. That Lacey's not ambitious enough." Her voice cracked. "It was all built on Aunt Sarah's death. The police called this morning," I told her. "Your mom's talking, trying to cut a deal." "Good." Savannah's voice hardened. "Let her talk. Let her face everything she did." The doorbell rang. Logan stood outside, looking exhausted but determined. "I've been up all night," he said, stepping inside, going through the financial records Gregory sent over. "The extent of the fraud." He shook his head. "But I think I found a way to make things right." Dad appeared from his office. "What do you mean?" "The money can be traced, recovered. It'll take time, but as a corporate lawyer, I can help navigate the legal process." He took Savannah's hand. "If you'll let me." "You still want to marry me?" she whispered. "After all this?" "I want to marry you, not your mother's crimes." He smiled slightly. "Maybe something smaller than yesterday's event?" A knock at the door revealed Gregory, carrying coffee and pastries. "Thought everyone could use breakfast. Also, I have news." We gathered in the kitchen as he spread out documents. "The offshore accounts are frozen. The insurance company's reopening the investigation into Sarah's death. And," he pulled out a letter, "the family business board wants to talk about reinstating Norman as CEO." Dad stared at the letter. "I don't know if I can." "You can," Lacey said from the doorway. She carried a familiar blue box. "Look what I found in Mom's things." Inside the music box lay another envelope we'd missed, marked for Norman. Dad's hands shook as he read Mom's letter. "My dearest Norman, if you're reading this, stay strong. The business was your dream before Zuriel twisted it. Don't let her take that from you, too. Lead with honesty, like you always wanted to." She knew, I realized. She knew you weren't part of Aunt Zuriel's schemes. "The board meeting's next week," Gregory said. "I'll help prepare the financial recovery plan." "We all will," Logan added. "As a family." Savannah wiped her eyes. Can we use Mom's stolen money to help people? Set up a foundation in Aunt Sarah's name?" "Already working on it," Gregory smiled. "Eleanor had the same idea." The doorbell rang again. This time it was the detective. "Thought you'd want to know," he said. "Zuriel's given us everything. The mechanic, the cover-up, all of it. She'll be going away for a long time." "And the money?" I asked. "Recovery process starts today. You'll need good lawyers." "We've got that covered," Logan and Gregory said together. After the detective left, we sat in Mom's garden, sharing coffee and memories. The morning sun caught the wind chimes she'd loved, creating music from light. "I keep thinking about karma," Lacey mused. How everything Aunt Zuriel did to control us just led to this moment, to us being stronger together. Mom would have loved that, I said, the truth setting us free. Speaking of truth, Gregory took my hand. Remember our first fake date at the rehearsal dinner? I'd like to make it real. Maybe start with coffee. Dad chuckled, his first real laugh in days. Sarah always said you two would end up together. She saw things clearly. Unlike some people, Savannah added, then bit her lip. Sorry, too soon for jokes about Mom? No, I squeezed her hand. We need to be able to talk about it, all of it. And then move forward, Logan said. Together. Dad stood, looking at Mom's garden. Sarah loved this place, said every flower had its season. He touched a blooming rose. Maybe it's our season now, to bloom again. Without the poison of secrets, Lacey added. Or the weight of stolen money, Savannah said. Or the fear of speaking truth, I finished. Gregory raised his coffee cup. To Sarah, who taught us that family isn't about control or money. To Mom, we echoed, who showed us that truth, like water, always finds its way. The wind chimes sang in harmony, and somewhere I knew Mom was smiling. Her garden would bloom again, nourished by truth instead of lies, by love instead of fear, and this time we'd tend it together. The inheritance check sat untouched on the dining room table like a loaded gun. My brother Ross's words still rang in my ears, each syllable another twist of the knife he'd just planted in my back. I'm Kendra, and until exactly 14 minutes ago, I thought I knew what family meant. It just makes more sense this way, sis, Ross said, flashing that trademark smile that had gotten him out of trouble since we were kids. With the twins' private school tuition and the new house renovations, stop. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Just stop talking. Mom nervously rearranged her silverware, avoiding my eyes. Dad suddenly found his meatloaf fascinating. The fancy Sunday dinner spread before us. Mom's attempt at softening the blow now seemed like a cruel joke. Honey, Mom finally spoke, her voice wavering. Your brother has a family to support. You're doing so well with your career, and you're single. So that makes it okay to give him my inheritance? The money Grandma specifically left for me? The words tasted bitter in my mouth. Ross leaned forward, all concerned big brother. Look, I talked it over with Mom and Dad. They agree it's the practical choice. You don't need it like we do. We? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. You mean like you needed that boat last summer? Or the luxury SUV you can barely afford payments on? That's not fair, Ross protested, but I saw the flash of guilt in his eyes. Kendra, Dad finally spoke up, his tone maddeningly reasonable. Your brother came to us with a solid plan, the kids' education. Stop using your children as shields, Ross. I turned to Jasmine, his wife, who hadn't said a word. Did you know about this? She startled, looking uncomfortable. Ross said, he said everyone agreed it was best. Everyone except me, you mean? I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The person whose inheritance it actually is. Sit down, sweetheart, Mom pleaded. Let's discuss this like adults. Adults? I grabbed my purse. Adults don't go behind their daughter's back to steal her inheritance. Adults don't manipulate their parents into betraying their own child. Ross stood too, reaching for my arm. You're being dramatic. It's just money. I jerked away from his touch. Just money? It was Grandma's final gift to me. She wanted me to have security, independence. But you couldn't stand that, could you? That's not true. But his protest sounded hollow. You know what the worst part is? I looked around at their faces, guilty, defensive, pleading. None of you even had the decency to tell me until after the papers were signed. How long were you planning this, Ross? How many family dinners did you sit through, knowing what you were about to do? The silence was damning. Kendra, please. Mom started crying. Classic mom, making it about her pain. I'm done. I headed for the door, then turned back. You know what Grandma told me before she died? She said, trust yourself first, because family can hurt you deepest. I didn't understand her then. I do now. Don't leave like this, Dad called after me. We can work something out. I paused at the door, touching the delicate silver bracelet on my wrist, Grandma's other gift to me. You've all worked out enough behind my back. Enjoy your dinner. And Ross? I met my brother's eyes one last time. I hope it was worth it. The drive home was a blur. My phone buzzed repeatedly, probably Mom, maybe Jasmine with guilty explanations. I ignored them all. In my apartment, I poured a glass of wine with shaking hands and called the one person I could trust. Isabel, you're not going to believe what just happened. Girl, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Remember how I told you Ross was being suspiciously nice lately? Showing up at Mom and Dad's every weekend, helping with house repairs, playing the perfect son? Yeah? He convinced them to sign over my inheritance to him. All of it. They did it without even telling me. Isabel's gasp of outrage was exactly what I needed to hear. They did not. That manipulative bastard. They did, and you know what's crazy. They all sat there acting like I was being unreasonable for being upset. Oh, hell no. What are you gonna do? I touched Grandma's bracelet again, feeling its familiar weight. I don't know yet, but I'm done being the good sister who always understands, always forgives. Ross thinks he's won? He has no idea what he just started. That's my girl, Isabel said fiercely. Whatever you need, I'm here. I took a deep breath, anger crystallizing into something harder, colder, more focused. What I need is a plan, because this isn't over, not by a long shot. 3 days after the dinner disaster, I sat in Marcus & Son's jewelry appraisal, watching an elderly man examine Grandma's bracelet under a bright light. My stomach churned with every careful turn of his magnifying glass. This is quite exceptional craftsmanship, he murmured, adjusting his glasses. Art Deco period, platinum setting with high-quality diamonds. Your grandmother had excellent taste. I swallowed hard. She did. May I ask why you're selling? His kind eyes met mine. Family pieces like this usually have significant sentimental value. They do, I said, my voice tight. But sometimes you have to sacrifice something precious to build something better. My phone buzzed again, the 20th call from Mom since Sunday. I silenced it without looking. I can offer you $65,000, the appraiser said. It's above market value, but the craftsmanship and provenance justify it. The number hit me like a physical blow. Grandma had never told me its worth, and I'd never asked. She'd simply clasped it around my wrist on my 30th birthday, saying, "For when you need to remember your worth, darling." My phone lit up with a text from Isabel. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. But I knew I did. The bracelet was my last tie to the family I thought I had, and now it would become the foundation of something new. I'll take it, I said firmly. As the appraiser went to prepare the paperwork, the bell above the door chimed. I turned to see Jasmine walking in, looking nervous. Kendra, wait! She hurried over. Your mom told me you might be here. Please don't sell it. I stood up, gripping my purse. You don't get a say in this, Jasmine. I know, she wrung her hands. But this bracelet, it means so much to you. Ross feels terrible about everything. Ross feels terrible? I laughed bitterly. Is that why he's been calling to apologize? Oh, wait, he hasn't. He's complicated, Jasmine defended weakly. But the kids keep asking why Aunt Kendra isn't answering their texts. Low blow. Don't use Emerson and Julian against me. That's Ross's move. I'm not. She lowered her voice. Things aren't great at home. Ross is stressed about money, even with the inheritance. Maybe if you talk to him. Mrs. Powell? The appraiser called from his desk. The paperwork's ready. Jasmine grabbed my arm. Please, Kendra, this bracelet is your connection to your grandmother. I gently removed her hand. No, my connection to Grandma is what she taught me about standing up for myself. This? I touched the bracelet one last time. This is just the beginning. The beginning of what? You'll see. I walked to the appraiser's desk, leaving Jasmine standing there. 20 minutes later, I stepped out into the sunshine, a cashier's check in my purse where the bracelet used to be. Jasmine was gone, probably already reporting back to Ross and my parents. My phone rang again, Isabel this time. It's done, I said, answering. How are you feeling? Like I just cut off my own arm. I started walking toward the subway. But also, free? Meet me at Carlo's? You shouldn't be alone right now. At our favorite coffee shop, Isabel was already waiting with my usual order and her laptop open. Okay, she said as I sat down. I've been researching. With your business background and my nonprofit experience, we could make this work. The market for women's financial education is huge, especially for those recovering from financial abuse. I took a sip of coffee, letting her words sink in. You really think we can do this? Girl, you just sold your most precious possession to help other women avoid what happened to you. We're already doing this. My phone buzzed with a text from Ross. Mom's crying. Hope you're happy. I showed it to Isabel, who rolled her eyes. Classic manipulation. You know that's not on you, right? I know. I pulled out my laptop. Let's focus on something that matters. Show me what you found about starting a nonprofit. As Isabel walked me through her research, I felt something shift inside me. The ache of losing Grandma's bracelet was still there, but now it was fuel for something bigger. First thing we need is a name, Isabel said, poised to type. I thought about Grandma's words about remembering my worth, about all the women out there facing their own Rosses, their own betrayals. Worth rising, I said firmly, because that's what we're going to help women do. Isabel grinned. Perfect. Now, let's make your brother regret ever messing with you. For the first time in days, I smiled. The bracelet might be gone, but its power was just beginning to show. And that's how Worth Rising was born, I concluded, looking out at the sea of faces in our first workshop. 6 months of sleepless nights, endless paperwork, and determination had led to this moment. 20 women sat before me, each with their own story of financial betrayal or manipulation. Some nodded in recognition as I shared my experience. Others wiped away tears. But this isn't about my story, I continued, gesturing to the workbooks Isabel was distributing. It's about making sure your story has a different ending. A woman in the front row raised her hand. What if it's too late? My ex-husband already cleaned out our accounts. It's never too late, Maria. I walked closer to her. That's why we're partnering with Legal Aid Services. Isabel, can you share the resource packet? As Isabel handled the practical details, my phone vibrated, a text from Mom. Your father's birthday dinner is Sunday. Please come. We miss you. I switched off the screen. 6 months of minimal contact had been harder than I'd expected, but necessary. Kendra? Another participant spoke up. How did you deal with the anger? I'm so mad at myself for being stupid. Stop right there, I interrupted firmly. You weren't stupid. You were trusting. There's a difference. The people who abuse that trust, they're the ones who should feel stupid. After the workshop, Isabel and I were packing up when a young woman approached us. Her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. I'm Sarah, she said quietly. I've been sleeping in my car for 2 weeks. My boyfriend. He convinced me to put everything in his name. Said it was for tax purposes. Isabel and I exchanged glances. This was exactly why we'd started Worth Rising. Sit down, Sarah, I said, pulling out a chair. Let's talk about your options. 3 hours later, Sarah had a place at our partner's shelter, an appointment with our legal team, and a spark of hope in her eyes that hadn't been there before. That's number 12, Isabel said as we watched Sarah leave. 12 women we've helped get back on their feet. Not enough, I replied, checking my email, but it's a start. A new message popped up from a local news station. They wanted to do a feature on Worth Rising. Holy shit, Isabel breathed, reading over my shoulder. This could be huge for us. It could help us reach more women, I agreed, already typing a response. The next morning, I was adjusting my blazer in the studio's green room when my phone lit up with Ross's number. I almost declined the call, but something made me answer. What do you want, Ross? Just saw the promo for your TV interview, he said, his voice tight. Real subtle, sis, airing our family drama on local news. Interesting that you assume it's about you, I replied coolly. This is about helping women protect themselves from financial abuse. Ring any bells? You're unbelievable, he snapped. Mom's a mess. Dad barely talks anymore, and you're turning it into some kind of crusade? Ms. Powell? The producer poked her head in. We're ready for you. I have to go, I told Ross. By the way, how are those private school payments working out? I hung up before he could respond. The interview went better than I dared hope. The reporter was genuinely interested in our mission, asking thoughtful questions about financial literacy and empowerment. What inspired you to start Worth Rising? She asked. Sometimes, I said, looking directly into the camera, the worst betrayals can lead to the best revelations. Every woman deserves to know her worth isn't determined by anyone else's actions. By that evening, our website had crashed from too many visitors. Isabel called in a panic. We've got over 300 emails. Women asking for help, offering to volunteer, wanting to donate. I sat down hard on my couch. How many can we help? With this response, we'll need to expand, maybe open satellite offices. She paused. Kendra, we're going to need more funding. I know someone who owes me an inheritance, I said dryly. Girl, no, Isabel laughed. Think bigger. I've got a meeting set up with the Women's Foundation tomorrow. They're interested in partnering. My doorbell rang. Outside stood Jasmine, looking uncomfortable. I saw your interview, she said before I could speak. I need to talk to you about Ross. The look in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. Karma was finally making its first appearance. Come in, I said, stepping aside. Tell me everything. As Jasmine walked past me, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the hallway mirror. No bracelet on my wrist anymore, but something stronger had taken its place. Purpose. Jasmine's hands shook as she clutched her coffee mug. The credit card companies keep calling. Ross changed our phone numbers twice, but they keep finding us. I sat across from her in my living room, processing her words. How bad is it? Bad. She pulled out a crumpled envelope from her purse. The private school sent this yesterday. They're threatening to remove the kids if we miss another payment. What happened to the inheritance money? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Jasmine's laugh was hollow. Gone. All of it. Ross said he was investing in some amazing opportunity, something about cryptocurrency and real estate. Of course he did. I remembered Ross's get-rich-quick schemes from college. Some things never changed. That's not even the worst part. Jasmine lowered her voice, though we were alone. I found paperwork in his office. He took out a second mortgage on the house without telling me, used my signature. My head snapped up. He forged your signature? He said it was just temporary, that the investment would pay off any day now. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Emerson needs braces. Julian's having anxiety attacks about changing schools, and I can't even buy groceries without checking our balance 3 times. My phone buzzed. Isabel texting about tomorrow's Worth Rising workshop. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Why didn't you come to me sooner?" I asked softly. "Ross said you were just being spiteful with your charity work, that you were trying to embarrass him." She wiped her eyes. "But then I saw your interview about women protecting themselves. I realized I was becoming exactly what you were warning about." A key rattled in my front door, Isabel using her emergency key. She burst in, waving her tablet. "Kendra, you need to see this. The investment forum is blowing up about—" She stopped short, seeing Jasmine. "Oh, hey. It's okay," I said. "She was just telling me about Ross's brilliant investment plans." Isabel's eyes widened. "You mean the Royal Palm development scam? That's what I came to show you. The whole thing just collapsed. FBI's involved and everything." Jasmine went pale. "What?" I took the tablet, scanning the headlines. Sure enough, Royal Palm Development was exposed as a massive Ponzi scheme. Investors were losing millions. "How much did he put in?" I asked Jasmine. "All of it," she whispered. "The inheritance, our savings, the mortgage money. He said it was guaranteed returns." My phone rang, Ross's number. I showed the screen to Jasmine. "Don't tell him I'm here," she pleaded. "He doesn't know I found the papers." I answered on speaker. "Hello, brother." "Kendra." His voice was frantic. "I need your help. Something's happened with an investment, but it's just temporary. If you could loan me some money, like you loaned me my inheritance." "Damn it, this isn't a joke," he was shouting now. "The kids' school, the house payments. I need $80,000 by Friday." Isabel made a choking sound. Jasmine covered her mouth. "That's funny," I said calmly. "Last time we talked, you said I was being dramatic about just money. What changed? Please," his voice cracked. "I'm begging you, help me fix this." "Fix what, Ross? The investment scam? The forged documents? The lies to your wife?" Silence. "Then, Jasmine's with you, isn't she?" "Goodbye, Ross." "Wait." I hung up. Jasmine was shaking. "He'll lose everything," she said. "We'll lose everything." "No," I corrected her. "He lost everything. You still have choices." Isabel sat down beside her. "Worth Rising has resources, legal aid, financial advisors, support groups. We can help you protect yourself and the kids." "Ross will never forgive me. Ross forged your signature and gambled away your children's future," I reminded her. "His forgiveness isn't the priority here." My phone started ringing again, Mom this time. "Ross just called us," she said when I answered. "He's crying, saying you're turning Jasmine against him. What are you doing?" "What am I doing?" I repeated incredulously. "Ask your perfect son what he's done with the inheritance you helped him steal. Check the news about Royal Palm Development." "What are you talking about?" "Better yet, ask him about forging his wife's signature. I'm sure that'll make for great Sunday dinner conversation." I hung up, turning to Jasmine. "You have 2 choices. Keep hiding his secrets and go down with him, or let me help you protect yourself and the kids." She stared at her wedding ring for a long moment. Then she looked up, something steely entering her gaze. "Where do we start?" Isabel pulled out her laptop. "First, we document everything. Then we call our lawyer." As they began working, my phone lit up with a text from Ross. "You'll regret this." I smiled grimly. "No, brother, you will." The children's playground at Riverside Park felt like neutral territory. I watched Emerson push Julian on the swings, while Jasmine and I sat on a nearby bench, far enough from other parents to talk privately. "He cleaned out the kids' college accounts," Jasmine said. her voice barely audible over the playground noise. The lawyer found the transfers yesterday. Before or after the Royal Palm collapse? Before. He was trying to chase his losses. She twisted her wedding ring, still wearing it, but on her right hand now. The FBI interviewed him yesterday. A delighted shriek from Julian drew our attention. Higher, Emmy! Push me higher! At least they're resilient, I said, watching my niece and nephew play. How are they handling the move? Better than expected. The apartment's small, but they love being closer to their school friends. Jasmine managed a weak smile. The school board approved the financial aid package. They can stay through the end of the year. My phone buzzed. Dad calling. Third time today. I declined it. Your parents keep asking about you, Jasmine said. They're worried. They're worried about Ross, I corrected. They always are. Aunt Kendra. Emerson ran over, cheeks flushed. Can you push me now? Julian's too little to do it right. Am not, Julian protested, jumping off his swing. I followed Emerson to the swings, grateful for the interruption. As I pushed her, my phone buzzed again. A text from Isabel. Ross just showed up at the Worth Rising office, looking for you. Everything okay? Jasmine called from the bench, noticing my expression. Before I could answer, a familiar voice cut through the playground noise. Daddy! Julian shouted, running toward Ross, who stood at the park entrance looking disheveled in a wrinkled suit. Hey, buddy! Ross caught Julian in a hug, but his eyes were fixed on me. Emmy, come here. I missed you guys. Emerson jumped off the swing midair, making my heart lurch. Daddy, are you coming home? Jasmine stood up, tension visible in every line of her body. Ross, this isn't the time. When is the time, Jazz? His voice cracked. You won't answer my calls. You took the kids. You took everything else, she shot back. I can fix this, he insisted, still holding Julian. I have a new opportunity. Stop. I stepped between them. Not here, not in front of the kids. Stay out of this, Kendra. You've done enough damage. Damage? I laughed incredulously. That's rich coming from you. Mommy? Julian's lower lip trembled. Why is everyone fighting? Jasmine moved quickly, gathering both kids. Let's go get ice cream, okay? Daddy and Aunt Kendra need to talk. Once they were out of earshot, Ross rounded on me. Happy now? You've turned my whole family against me. You did that yourself. I crossed my arms. What do you want, Ross? I want my life back, the life you're destroying with your revenge charity. Worth Rising helps women protect themselves from men like you. Men like me? He ran his hands through his hair, wild-eyed. I'm your brother. I made a mistake, okay? I admit it. But this, getting Jasmine to leave, threatening me with lawyers, you forged her signature, stole your children's college funds. I was going to pay it back. Everything was going to work out if you hadn't turned her against me. A mother nearby gathered her children, hurrying away from our increasingly heated exchange. The FBI doesn't investigate mistakes, Ross. Neither does the SEC. His face crumpled. I need help, Kendra. Real help. Not your public humiliation campaign. Funny how you only admit that after you've lost everything. Please. He grabbed my arm. You're my sister. Despite everything, that has to count for something. I looked at his desperate face, remembering the brother who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd threatened my first boyfriend, who'd cried at our grandmother's funeral. It does count for something, I said quietly, removing his hand. That's why I'm not pressing charges for showing up at my office. But if you ever come near Worth Rising again, that will change. So, that's it? You're choosing your revenge over family? No, Ross. I'm choosing justice over enabling. There's a difference. I started walking away, then turned back. You know what the saddest part is? If you just asked for help in the first place, instead of stealing and lying, I would have given it freely. Kendra, wait. Goodbye, Ross. Get a good lawyer. You're gonna need one. As I walked toward the ice cream shop where Jasmine and the kids waited, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. How could you do this to your brother? I typed back, how could you do this to your daughter? Then I blocked both their numbers, wiped my eyes, and put on a smile for my niece and nephew. They'd seen enough family drama for one day. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. But sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen. The total damages amount to approximately $1.2 million, the FBI agent said, sliding documents across my office desk. Your brother's involvement in the Royal Palm scheme was substantial. I stared at the numbers, each digit hammering home the scale of Ross's deception. Beside me, Isabel took rapid notes while our lawyer, Monica, studied the paperwork. And you're certain about the forged documents? Monica asked. Multiple counts, the agent confirmed. We've already identified 8 separate instances of signature forgery, including his wife's and 2 business partners. My phone lit up with a text from Jasmine. Ross's lawyer called. He wants to make a deal. Ms. Powell, the agent leaned forward, your organization's work with financial fraud victims has been invaluable to our investigation. We'd like to discuss the possibility of a formal partnership with Worth Rising. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Dad stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Kendra, we need to talk. His eyes darted to the agent's badge. Alone. Mr. Powell, we're in a meeting. Monica started, but I held up my hand. It's okay. I stood up. Let's take this outside. In the hallway, Dad paced like a caged animal. Your mother's in the hospital. My stomach dropped. What happened? Anxiety attack. The doctor says it's stress-related. He stopped pacing to face me. This has to stop, Kendra. Your vendetta is destroying our family. My vendetta? I kept my voice low, aware of the thin walls. Ross committed federal crimes, Dad. He stole from his own children. He made mistakes. No, a mistake is bouncing a check. This was calculated fraud. He's facing prison time. Dad's voice cracked. Your brother could go to jail because of you. Because of me? I laughed bitterly. I didn't force him to join a Ponzi scheme. I didn't make him forge signatures or steal his kids' college funds. But you're the one helping the FBI build their case. I'm helping Jasmine protect herself and her children. Remember them, your grandchildren. Dad deflated slightly. Of course I remember, but there has to be another way. If we all just sit down together, like we did when Ross convinced you to give him my inheritance. The old pain surfaced. How did that family meeting work out? That's not fair. None of this is fair, Dad. But at least now Ross is facing consequences for his actions, maybe for the first time in his life. My phone buzzed. Isabel texting that the FBI agent needed to leave soon. Go see Mom, I said softly. Tell her I'm sorry she's hurting, but I won't stop doing what's right just because it's hard. You sound just like your grandmother. Dad's voice was tired. Good. She was the only one who taught me to stand up for myself. Back in my office, the FBI agent was gathering his papers. One more thing, Ms. Powell. Mr. Ross's lawyer has approached us about a plea deal. They're suggesting your testimony could influence the terms. I felt the weight of the moment. Ross's fate, partially in my hands. Exactly what I'd wanted, wasn't it? I'll need to think about it, I said carefully. After everyone left, Isabel brought in coffee. You okay? No. I showed her Dad's latest text. Your mother's asking for you. Go, Isabel said firmly. I'll handle things here. The hospital corridor felt endless. Outside Mom's room, I paused, hearing voices inside. She's just angry, Mom, Ross was saying. Once she calms down, don't. Mom's voice was weak but clear. Don't make excuses, not anymore. I pushed the door open. Ross jumped up from his chair, face pale. Mom looked small in the hospital bed. Kendra, she whispered, you came. Ross moved toward the door. I'll give you two. Stay. Mom's command stopped him. Both of you sit down, please. We sat on opposite sides of her bed, like children called to account. I failed you both, Mom said quietly. Ross, we enabled your worst impulses, made excuses, looked the other way. And Kendra, her eyes filled with tears, we betrayed you, chose the easier path over the right one. Mom, don't, Ross started. I'm not finished. She took a shaky breath. Kendra, what you're doing with Worth Rising, your grandmother would be so proud. The tears I'd been holding back spilled over. Ross, Mom turned to him, you need to face what you've done. Really face it. No more schemes, no more excuses. I don't know how, he whispered. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw past the anger for the first time in months. I might have an idea, I said slowly, but you won't like it. Ross met my eyes, and for a moment, I saw a glimmer of the brother I used to know. I'm listening, he said. The Worth Rising annual gala buzzed with energy. 300 guests filled the hotel ballroom, each representing another step in our mission. Isabel was working the crowd like a pro, while I stood backstage, reviewing my speech one last time. 5 minutes, the event coordinator whispered. My phone lit up with a text from Jasmine. We're here. Kids are excited to see you. Ready for this? Isabel appeared beside me, adjusting my microphone. The press is here, major donors, even that senator who's been pushing for financial fraud reform. Is he here? I asked, front row, looking appropriately ashamed. She squeezed my hand. It's not too late to change your mind. Yes, it is. The lights dimmed and I heard the introduction begin. Taking a deep breath, I walked onto the stage. Good evening, I began, facing the sea of faces. 1 year ago, Worth Rising started with a bracelet and a betrayal. I told our story, the real story, holding nothing back. The inheritance, the theft, the transformation of pain into purpose. In the front row, I saw Mom dabbing her eyes while Dad held her hand. But tonight isn't about that story, I continued. It's about the 347 women we've helped this year, about the partnerships we've built, the lives we've changed, and about one more story that needs to be told. I paused, my heart hammering. I'd like to introduce someone. My brother, Ross. The audience murmured as Ross walked onto the stage. He looked different, humbler somehow, in his plain suit and tie. Hello, he said into the microphone, his voice shaking slightly. I'm the betrayal Kendra mentioned. The room went silent. I stole from my sister, manipulated my parents, forged documents, lost everything, including my family's trust. He swallowed hard. And now, as part of my plea agreement and my personal commitment to make amends, I'm here to tell you exactly how I did it. For the next 15 minutes, Ross laid bare every manipulation, every lie, every tactic he'd used. The audience sat riveted as he explained how he'd convinced our parents, how he'd hidden his tracks, how he'd justified each step. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he concluded. I'm here because every person who might be tempted to do what I did needs to see the cost, and every person who might be victimized needs to know the warning signs. In the audience, I saw Jasmine wipe away tears while holding Emerson and Julian close. Worth Rising isn't just about helping victims. I stepped forward. It's about prevention, education, and sometimes redemption. Ross turned to me. Kendra agreed to testify for a lighter sentence if I committed to working with Worth Rising's prevention program, speaking at events, helping identify fraud patterns, teaching others to recognize the manipulation I used. Because sometimes, I added, the best person to prevent a crime is someone who's faced the consequences of committing it. The applause was thunderous. As we left the stage, Ross grabbed my arm. "Thank you," he whispered. "I know I don't deserve." "You're right, you don't." I met his eyes. But this isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to be better. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of handshakes and congratulations. The senator promised support for our new legislation. Donors wrote checks that would fund our expansion plans. Later, as the crowd thinned, I found myself at a quiet table with my family. Julian was asleep in Dad's lap while Emerson showed Mom her latest art project. 3 years, Jasmine said quietly. That's what the plea deal offers. With community service through Worth Rising after release, I added. If he stays clean, keeps his commitments. I will, Ross said firmly. I know words mean nothing now, but I'm going to prove it. To all of you. Actions, not words, Mom said, her voice stronger than it had been in months. Speaking of actions, Isabel interrupted, approaching with a small box. This just arrived from Marcus and Sons. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside lay Grandma's bracelet. How? I whispered. The original buyer returned it, Isabel explained. Said after seeing our work, he wanted it back where it belonged. Put it on, Emerson urged. As I fastened the bracelet, I caught Ross watching with tears in his eyes. I'm so sorry, he said softly. I know. I touched the familiar silver links. But look what came from it. Around us, the Worth Rising logo glowed on screens displaying our success stories. 347 women, and counting. Sometimes the worst betrayals do lead to the best revelations. But the real power isn't in the revenge. It's in what you build from the ashes. The prison visiting room buzzed with quiet conversations. I sat across from Ross, watching him read the latest Worth Rising quarterly report. 812 women helped, he said, shaking his head in amazement. And the new legislation passed? Unanimously. I tapped the page. The Powell Amendment, they're calling it, makes financial fraud within families a specific offense with heavier penalties. Fitting. He smiled wryly. How's the family? Emerson made honor roll again. Julian's anxiety is better. The therapy's really helping. And Jasmine, I hesitated. She's seeing someone. Ross nodded slowly. Good. She deserves to be happy. You've changed, I observed. Prison has a way of stripping away the bullshit. He closed the report. The men in my financial literacy class, they remind me of who I used to be. All excuses and justifications. How many are in the program now? 23. They come in thinking they're the victims, leave understanding the real damage they caused. He leaned forward. That's why I wanted to see you today. I have a proposal. I raised an eyebrow. Last time you said that? I know. He laughed, a real laugh, something I hadn't heard in ages. But this is different. The warden thinks Worth Rising's prison program could work in other facilities. She wants to expand it. We're already stretched thin. Let me run it. His eyes were earnest. Once I'm out. I know these men, Kendra. I know their mindset, their excuses. I can reach them. I studied him carefully. You're serious about this. Dead serious. No salary, no benefits. Just the chance to prevent others from making my mistakes. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Dinner at 6, bringing the kids. Don't be late. Speaking of mistakes, Ross nodded at my phone. How are things with Mom and Dad? Better, different. I showed him the text. We're all learning new ways to be family. Without the manipulation and enabling? Exactly, I smiled. Mom's actually volunteering at our crisis hotline now. Says it helps her understand where she went wrong with us. And Dad? Still quiet but present. Really present, not just physically there. I checked the time. I should go. Family dinner. Wait. Ross pulled out an envelope. Could you give this to Jasmine? It's not about getting her back or anything. Just some things I need to say. I took the envelope, remembering another family dinner that felt like a lifetime ago. Your proposal? I said, standing. Let me talk to Isabel and the board. No promises, but that's all I'm asking. He stood too. Hey, Kendra, remember when we were kids and I promised to always protect you? Right before you pushed me into the pool? He laughed again. Yeah, I failed at that promise, spectacularly. But watching you now, you never needed my protection. You needed me to get out of your way so you could soar. The guard called time. As I gathered my things, Ross touched my arm. The bracelet, he said. Grandma would be proud of how you used it. At home, I changed for dinner, catching sight of the bracelet in my mirror. Its silver surface had tiny scratches now, battle scars from a year of work, meetings, and healing. My phone rang. Isabel. You'll never believe this, she said without preamble. Remember Sarah, our first success story? Of course. What about her? She just donated $50,000 to Worth Rising, said she sold her tech startup and wanted to give back. I sat down, remembering Sarah trembling in our workshop, sleeping in her car. That's not all, Isabel continued. She wants to join the board, says she has ideas for expanding our tech training program. The doorbell rang, Mom and Dad, early as usual, with Emerson and Julian's voices carrying through the door. Got to go, I told Isabel. Family dinner. The healthy kind this time? Getting there. I opened the door to hugs and chatter, the smell of Mom's lasagna, Dad's quiet smile. As we settled around my dining table, the same one where Ross had announced his betrayal, I touched my bracelet. Some people say living well is the best revenge. They're wrong. The best revenge is building something so powerful, so meaningful, that the original wound becomes just another building block in your foundation. Aunt Kendra? Julian tugged my sleeve. Tell us the bracelet story again? I smiled, looking around at my rebuilt family. Well, it starts with a betrayal, but that's not where it ends. Because sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one.
They thought I was finished. What they didn't know was this was just intermission. My name is Juliana, and 6 months ago, my husband served me divorce papers while I was lying in a hospital bed. Not just any hospital bed, the one I'd been confined to for weeks, while doctors tried to figure out why my body was slowly shutting down. Chronic fatigue, muscle weakness, cognitive fog, the works. But that's not even the part that broke me. Jules, you have a visitor, the nurse had said cheerfully that morning, probably thinking it was my daily check-in from Travis. Instead, it was his lawyer. The manila envelope landed on my blanket with a soft thud. Travis couldn't even face me himself, 8 years of marriage, and he sent a stranger in a cheap suit to do his dirty work. Mrs. Lewis, these are— I know what they are, I cut him off, my voice steadier than I felt. Where is he? Mr. Lewis thought it best to handle this professionally. I almost laughed. Professional? Right. Because nothing says professional like abandoning your wife during a health crisis. That night, I cried until my IV monitor started beeping. The nurses came running, probably thinking I was coding. Instead, they found me clutching my phone, watching a video that would change everything. Hey, here's to her finally crawling out of our lives. Nora, my mother-in-law, was toasting with a champagne glass, her perfectly manicured hands steady as she addressed a room full of laughing guests. The video, sent by someone who still had a conscience, showed the Lewis family's divorce party at their country club. Travis stood next to his mother, arm around some young blonde from his office. Daria, the woman he'd been working late with while I was getting MRIs and spinal taps. To think, Nora continued, her voice dripping with venom. She actually believed she belonged in this family, as if restoring that old house made her worthy of the Lewis name. The house, our house, the one I'd spent 3 years renovating, turning a dilapidated Victorian into a showpiece that even Architectural Digest had featured. The one thing I'd brought to the marriage that had made them respect me, or so I thought. My phone buzzed with a text from Bryn Lee, my best friend and the only paralegal I trust. "Jules, they're listing the house. Tomorrow." I should have felt devastated. Instead, I felt something else stirring, something cold and calculating that had been dormant since I got sick. "Remember that clause?" I texted back. 3 dots appeared. Then, "The one Clark helped you add during refinancing. Holy shit, Jules, you're not—" "Call him now." My hands shook as I pulled up the property documents on my phone. 4 years ago, during what Travis thought was a routine refinancing, I'd added a conditional lien protecting my premarital contributions and renovation expenses. Clark, my attorney, had buried it in legal jargon Travis never bothered to read. The monitor started beeping again, but this time it was because my heart rate was rising with anticipation. My phone lit up with Brinley's call. "Clark says it's ironclad," she said, not even bothering with hello. "They can't sell without your approval. And get this, any attempt to force a sale triggers automatic financial penalties." "Let them list it," I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. "Let them bring in buyers. Let them think they've won." "Jules," Brinley's voice softened, "are you sure? You're still recovering." I looked down at my hospital bracelet, at the IV in my arm, at all the physical reminders of my weakness. But my mind? My mind was sharper than it had been in months. "They think I'm too sick to fight back," I said. "Too broken to notice they're trying to steal the one thing I built with my own hands. But you know what, Bryn? Sometimes the sick ones are the most dangerous. We have nothing left to lose." Through the hospital window, I could see the sun setting over the city. Somewhere across town, the Lewis family was probably still celebrating my downfall, still laughing about how easily they'd discarded me. "Make the calls," I told Brinley, "and find out who that realtor is, the one they're using, Serenity something." "What are you planning?" I smiled, feeling more alive than I had in weeks. "I'm planning to teach them that karma isn't just a cute saying on Instagram. It's a bitch who takes notes and keeps receipts." The monitor beeped one more time, but I didn't care. For the first time since getting sick, since watching my marriage crumble, since being treated like something disposable, I had purpose again. They wanted a show? Fine. I'd give them one hell of a final act. I wish I could have bottled the silence in that room and saved it for a rainy day. 4 years earlier, I'd sat across from Clark in his downtown office, watching Travis skim through refinancing documents with his usual impatience. "Just the standard stuff, right?" Travis had asked, clicking his Mont Blanc pen. "We need this done before the bank closes." Clark had glanced at me, his poker face perfect. "Standard protection clauses, yes. Nothing unusual for a property of this value." What Travis didn't know was that I'd met with Clark privately the week before. I'd noticed things, small things, missing money from our joint account, late-night calls he took in the garage, the way Nora had started making comments about protecting family assets. "The clause is buried in Section 12B, Clark had whispered during our secret meeting. "It looks like boilerplate language about property improvements, but it's actually a protective lien. If they try to force you out during any period of medical or financial duress, the house is yours." Now, watching Travis's Mercedes pull up to my house with a car full of potential buyers, I felt that old familiar flutter of anxiety. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was anticipation. "Ready?" Brinley squeezed my hand. We sat in her car across the street, watching the show unfold. The realtor, Serenity, bounced out of her own vehicle in a pink blazer that screamed, "First year in real estate!" Behind her came Nora, wearing the same smug smile she'd had at my divorce party. "God, I hate that smile," Brinley muttered. "Wait for it," I said. The potential buyers, a couple in their 40s, followed Serenity up the walkway I'd laid myself, past the heritage roses I'd planted. Travis was doing his charming host routine, probably telling them about the house's potential, as if he'd had anything to do with its transformation. My phone buzzed. "Clark, documents delivered to their agent, standing by." "Show time," I whispered. We watched through the front windows as the group toured the foyer. Even from outside, I could see Serenity's animated gestures, probably gushing about the original hardwood floors I'd restored by hand. Then her phone rang. Even from across the street, we could see her expression change. She excused herself, stepping onto the porch. A few minutes later, she went back inside. "Mrs. Lewis?" We heard her voice shake slightly. "Could I speak with you privately?" Nora's face tightened. They disappeared into the kitchen, my kitchen, where I'd spent countless hours designing the perfect layout. 3, 2, 1, Brinley counted down. "What do you mean she owns it?" Nora's screech carried through the open windows. The potential buyers jumped. "I'm so sorry," Serenity stammered, emerging from the kitchen with a sheet of paper. "But according to these documents, Mrs. Kent holds primary financial interest due to something called a renovation lien. We can't proceed with any sale without her explicit approval." Travis snatched the paper. "This is impossible. The divorce agreement doesn't override the refinancing clause," Serenity explained, her professional demeanour cracking. "And attempting to list the property without the lien holder's consent triggers automatic penalties." "Get Clark on the phone," Nora demanded, but her voice had lost its usual authority. The potential buyers were already backing toward the door. "We should go," the wife said quietly. "Clearly there are some issues to resolve." "No, please," Travis stepped forward. "This is just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" The husband frowned. "You're trying to sell a house you don't fully own?" That's when I stepped out of Brinley's car. The late afternoon sun hit the front of the house, my house, making the restored stained glass windows shimmer. I'd spent weeks getting those windows right, matching historical photos to recreate their original glory. "Hello, Travis!" I called out, my voice carrying across the lawn. "Having an open house without me?" The colour drained from his face. Nora's hands clenched into fists. "You!" she spat. "You planned this!" "No," I corrected her, walking slowly up the path. "I protected what was mine. There's a difference." The potential buyers hurried to their car. Serenity looked like she wanted to melt into the ground. "You can't do this," Travis said, but his voice lacked conviction. I reached out and took the listing papers from his hands. "Actually, I can, and I did. 4 years ago, while you were too busy not reading the fine print." "We'll fight this," Nora threatened. "Please do," I smiled. "I'm sure the judge will love to hear about how you tried to sell property you don't own while I was in the hospital. Speaking of which," I turned to Serenity, "you might want to alert other agents about this property's complications." I walked back to Brinley's car, my steps steady despite my still recovering body. Behind me, I heard Nora's shrill voice starting to berate Travis. "That," Brinley said as I got in, "was better than any reality TV show I've ever watched." "Oh, honey," I buckled my seatbelt. "We're just getting started." The text message came 3 days after the open house disaster. "Can we meet? I need to tell you something." Riley, Travis's brother, the quiet one, the one who'd stood in the corner during their divorce party, not exactly participating, but not stopping it either. "It's a trap," Brinley said when I showed her the message. We were having coffee at her place, away from the chaos my house had become. "The Lewis family is desperate. They'll try anything." I stirred my tea, watching the leaves swirl. Maybe, but Riley was different. Remember when I first got sick? He brought me books. Serial killers probably bring their victims books too. I laughed despite myself. I'll meet him somewhere public, the coffee shop on Main. I'm coming with you. No, I said, but you can sit at another table and pretend you're not watching us like a hawk. The next morning, I spotted Riley through the coffee shop window before he saw me. He looked tired, his usually neat appearance slightly rumpled. When I walked in, he stood up so quickly he almost knocked over his chair. "Juliana," he said, "thank you for coming." I sat down, keeping my expression neutral. "Why am I here, Riley?" He glanced around nervously before sliding an envelope across the table. "Because what they did to you was wrong, all of it, and—" He lowered his voice. "What if I told you Travis wasn't just cheating with one woman, but orchestrating something bigger, with your medical trust?" My hand froze halfway to my coffee cup. "What?" "Open it." He nodded at the envelope. Inside were bank statements, emails, transaction records. My vision blurred as I scanned the documents, but certain phrases jumped out. Transfer authorization, investment opportunity, medical trust dissolution. "How did you get these?" "I work in the family business too, remember. I have access to the servers. When you got sick, Travis started moving money around, but it wasn't just affairs or divorce planning. He was building his new company," I finished, my voice hollow, "with my medical trust money." Riley nodded. "With Daria as a board member. They've been planning this for months, before you even got diagnosed." The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm, too crowded. A barista called out someone's order, the noise making me jump. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "They're your family." Riley's face hardened. "Because last week I overheard Mom, Nora, talking about how they planned it all, getting you diagnosed, rushing the divorce while you were too sick to fight back. She said, and I quote, 'Better we cut her off now, before she dies broke and sues us.'" My hands started shaking, not from weakness this time, from rage. "There's more," Riley continued. "They pressured Travis to file for divorce as soon as your condition became official. There are emails. Mum was worried you might actually recover and discover what they'd done with the trust." "Why now?" I asked. "Why are you turning on them now?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because I watched them celebrate your suffering like it was a victory. Because I saw my brother become someone I don't recognize. And because—" He pulled out one more document. "I found this medical directive with your forged signature on it. Mum did that, not Travis. She was trying to remove you from making critical decisions about your own care." The coffee shop suddenly felt like it was spinning. Brinley appeared at my side. She must have seen my distress from her surveillance spot. "I think we're done here," she said firmly. "Wait," Riley stood up. "There's one more thing. Travis and Daria, they're planning to go public with their company next month, using your money, your trust. They think you're too broken to notice." I gathered the documents with trembling hands. "Thank you, Riley. But why should I trust you?" "Because I'm done being complicit," he said simply, "and because you deserve to know the truth, even if it destroys my family." As Brinley led me out, I heard Riley call after me. "They're having a board meeting next week, announcing the company launch. I can get you in." Outside, the autumn air hit my face like a wake-up call. Brinley gripped my arm, steadying me. "Jules, what are you thinking?" I looked down at the envelope full of evidence. My medical trust, the one my parents had set up before they died, had funded Travis's betrayal. Every doctor's appointment, every test, every treatment had been a cover for their scheme. "I'm thinking," I said slowly, "that it's time to crash a board meeting." Brinley's eyes widened. "You're not serious." "Oh, but I am." I pulled out my phone and dialed Clark's number. "And this time, we're not just going after the house, we're going after everything." The line connected, and Clark's voice came through. "Juliana, what do you need?" I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. How do you feel about corporate fraud cases? Miss Ferguson? I extended my hand to the young blonde sitting across from me. Thank you for agreeing to meet about the house. Daria shifted uncomfortably in her seat at the upscale restaurant. Of course, though I'm surprised you contacted me instead of Travis or the realtor. Oh, but you're exactly who I wanted to see. I smiled, watching her perfectly manicured fingers tap nervously on the white tablecloth. After all, you're not just Travis's girlfriend anymore, are you? You're also a board member of his new venture. Her face paled slightly. How did you know about that? Let's just say I've been doing my homework. Speaking of which, I pulled out a folder and laid it on the table. Could you explain why your signature appears on withdrawals from my medical trust fund? The waiter approached with water, but I waved him away. Daria's eyes darted toward the exit. Those were authorized transfers, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Travis had power of attorney. Did he? That's interesting, because according to my lawyer, that medical directive was forged, just like these transfer authorizations. I tapped the documents. Your handwriting is quite distinctive, Daria, especially those little hearts you dot your I's with. She swallowed hard. What do you want? I want you to look at me, really look at me, and tell me if it was worth it. While I was getting spinal taps and fighting to stay conscious, you were helping Travis steal my medical trust to fund your little start-up dreams. It wasn't like that, she protested weakly. Travis said you'd agreed to invest. While I was semi-conscious in the hospital? I leaned forward. Do you know what fraud is, Daria? Because the SEC has some very specific definitions. The colour drained completely from her face. You wouldn't. Actually, I would, but I'm giving you a chance first. Tell me everything. Dates, amounts, who knew what, and maybe I'll consider not pressing charges. She glanced around the restaurant nervously. I can't. Travis would what? Dump you? Honey, he's going to do that anyway once this all falls apart. You're just collateral damage to him. Trust me, I know. Her lower lip trembled. I have emails, she whispered, and recordings of meetings. Travis and Nora, they planned everything. They waited until you were too sick to notice the transfers. Send them to this address. I slid her a card with Brinley's work email. All of them, now. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. As she forwarded the evidence, I noticed a familiar face enter the restaurant, right on schedule. One more thing, I said, standing up. Wave to the financial journalist at table 6. He's been taking notes on our entire conversation. Daria's head snapped up just as the journalist approached our table, recorder in hand. Miss Ferguson, he said, I'm doing a story on emerging tech startups and their funding sources. Would you care to comment on the use of medical trust funds in your company's initial capitalization? I gathered my things, leaving Daria stammering through what would become very quotable panic. Outside, Brinley was waiting in her car. How'd it go? Better than expected. I checked my phone as it buzzed with incoming emails from Daria. She rolled over faster than I thought she would. Travis is going to lose it when this hits the press. That's the plan. I scrolled through the emails, each one more damning than the last. Look at this. They even discussed timing the divorce around my worst health days. Nora called it optimal leverage conditions. Monsters, Brinley muttered, pulling into traffic. What's next? Now we wait. The article drops tomorrow morning, right before their big investor meeting. Travis thinks he's announcing his company launch. Instead, he's announcing his own downfall. Brinley grinned. You know what the best part is? He did this to himself, all of it. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Riley. Board meeting started early. They're celebrating already. Travis just ordered champagne. I texted back. Tell him to save some for tomorrow's headlines. Then another message came through. This one from Travis himself. "We need to talk. About the house. I'm willing to negotiate." "No, you're not," I whispered to my phone. "You're just trying to get ahead of what's coming, too late." Brinley glanced at me. "You okay?" I looked out the window at the city sliding by, remembering all those nights I'd spent alone in the hospital, while Travis was with Daria, planning how to steal my future. "You know what the worst part was," I said quietly. "Not the cheating, not even the theft. It was how they assumed I was too weak to fight back, how they mistook my illness for stupidity. Well, Brinley pulled up to my house, my legally protected untouchable house. They won't make that mistake again." I smiled, watching the sunset paint my restored Victorian in shades of gold. No, they won't, because tomorrow they'll learn that sometimes the sick ones are the most dangerous. We have nothing left to lose, and all the time in the world to plan our revenge. The article hit at 6 a.m. sharp. By 6:05, my phone was exploding with notifications. Tech startup. Scandal. Local entrepreneur accused of defrauding sick wife's medical trust. I sat in my kitchen, sipping tea and watching the chaos unfold through the texts and emails flooding my screen. Riley was providing live updates from the office. Travis just threw his phone across the room. 3 investors already pulled out. Daria called in sick. Mum's on her way, she's furious. The journalist had done a masterful job. Every detail was there. The forged documents, the timed divorce, the systematic draining of my medical trust. He'd even included quotes from Daria about the planned corporate takeover during victims' health crisis. At 7:15, my doorbell rang. I already knew who it was. "You vindictive bitch," Nora spat as soon as I opened the door. She tried to push past me into the house, but I held my ground. "Careful," I said calmly. "Everything you say is being recorded again." She froze, finally noticing the security camera above the door, the one that had caught her previous trespassing attempts. "You've destroyed this family," she hissed. "No, you did that yourself. Would you like to explain why you forged my signature on medical directives? Because the DA is very interested in that part." Her perfectly composed face cracked. "You can't prove—" "Actually, I can." I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Nora's own voice discussing the forgery with Travis. "Riley's been quite helpful. Turns out he has a conscience." Who knew? "Riley?" The colour drained from her face. "He wouldn't—" "He did, along with copies of every email you sent pressuring Travis to divorce me while I was hospitalised. My favourite was the one where you wrote, 'Better we cut her off now, before she dies broke and sues us.' That showed real motherly concern." Nora's hands started shaking. "What do you want?" "Want? I want back every penny you stole from my medical trust. I want Travis's company dissolved before it can go public with my stolen money. And I want you to live with the knowledge that your own arrogance brought this all crashing down." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Riley. "Stock exchange pulled the IPO listing. Travis is having a meltdown in the conference room." "You know what the funny thing is?" I continued, showing Nora the text. "If you had just left me alone, let me keep my house, my dignity, my medical care, none of this would have happened. But you just couldn't resist celebrating my downfall, could you?" "We'll fight this," she threatened, but her voice wavered. "Please do. I'm sure the jury will love watching that video of your divorce party toast. Here's to her finally crawling out of our lives." Really brought tears to my eyes. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb. Clark stepped out carrying a briefcase. "Mrs. Lewis," he called out. "Perfect timing. I have some court documents that need your attention." Nora's face went from pale to ashen. "What documents?" "Oh, just the formal investigation notices," I said sweetly. "The DA is particularly interested in medical fraud. Did you know that forging healthcare directives is a felony? You wouldn't dare. Watch me." I stepped back into my house. "By the way, How's your country club membership holding up? I hear they're not too fond of members facing criminal charges." The door closed on her shocked face. Through the window, I watched her stumble back to her car, her usual confident stride replaced by something almost fragile. My phone lit up with a call from Brinley. "Jules, you're trending on Twitter. The business community is imploding. 3 more board members just resigned from Travis's company." "And Nora?" "Her private investment portfolio is tanking. Turns out she tied most of her personal assets to Travis's venture. She's losing everything." I walked to my study, the room where I'd spent countless hours researching laws and planning this moment while recovering my strength. "Any word from Travis?" "He's been calling everyone he knows for emergency funding. No one's touching this. One investor actually laughed and hung up on him." I sat down at my desk, looking at the framed photo I kept as a reminder. Me in my hospital bed, the day Travis had served divorce papers. I'd looked so broken then. "You know what the best revenge is, Bryn?" I asked, taking the photo out of its frame. "Watching them destroy themselves with their own greed." "Speaking of destruction," she said, "Riley just sent another update. Apparently Nora's having a complete meltdown in the office. She's screaming about family loyalty and threatening to disown him." I smiled, dropping the hospital photo into the shredder. "Karma's not just a bitch," I said, watching the image disappear. "She's also really good at taking notes." The courthouse hallway felt colder than I remembered. Or maybe it was just the ice in Nora's glare as she sat across from me, her designer suit somehow looking less crisp than usual. "All rise," the bailiff called out. I stood, steadier on my feet than I'd been in months. Recovery was a funny thing. Sometimes all you needed was a good dose of righteous anger to speed it along. "Busy in the matter of Kent versus Lewis Enterprises," Judge Martinez began, "regarding allegations of medical trust fraud, asset misappropriation, and falsification of medical documents." Travis wouldn't meet my eyes from his place at the defense table. His lawyer kept whispering urgently in his ear, but he just stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched. "Your Honour," my attorney began, "we have evidence of systematic fraud spanning 18 months. While my client was experiencing a severe health crisis, the defendants orchestrated an elaborate scheme to drain her medical trust fund for their own business ventures. The evidence appeared on the courtroom screens: bank transfers, forged signatures, email chains. Each exhibit felt like another nail in their coffin. Furthermore," he continued, "we have testimony from an insider regarding the intentional timing of these actions to coincide with Ms. Kent's periods of highest medical vulnerability." Riley stood up from his seat in the gallery. Travis's head snapped around, finally showing emotion, raw betrayal. "No," Nora hissed, half rising before her lawyer pulled her back down. "You can't do this." But Riley was already walking to the witness stand. Under oath, he laid it all out. The planned divorce, the forged documents, the calculated timing of each move. His voice never wavered, even when describing how his own mother had laughed about my illness at their country club meetings. And Mrs. Lewis specifically said, he paused, glancing at Nora, that they needed to strip her bare before she recovers enough to fight back. The judge's expression darkened. I watched Nora's face contort as her own son dismantled her carefully constructed world. Then came the financial forensics expert, methodically tracking every dollar from my medical trust through shell companies and into Travis's startup. The jury's faces showed increasing disgust with each revelation. "Your Honour," Nora's lawyer interrupted desperately, "my client is willing to discuss a settlement." "No," I said, standing up. "I want this on record, all of it." The judge nodded. "Proceed." By lunch break, Travis looked physically ill. During recess, his lawyer cornered mine with settlement offers, each one larger than the last. I rejected them all. The afternoon brought Daria to the stand. She'd traded her usual sleek outfits for something more subdued, almost penitent. "Yes," she testified, her voice small. "I knew the money came from her medical trust. Travis said she'd agreed to it, but—" She swallowed hard. "I saw her once in the hospital. She couldn't even hold a pen. There's no way she could have authorized anything." When Nora took the stand, her mask finally cracked completely. "She was never good enough for this family," she exploded after 10 minutes of questioning, "always playing the victim with her mysterious illness and her renovation projects. Mrs. Lewis," the judge warned, "she was weak. She deserved—" "Mrs. Lewis," the judge's gavel came down hard, "control yourself or I'll hold you in contempt." But Nora was beyond control. "We built this company. We deserve that money more than some bedridden—" "Bailiff," the judge ordered, "remove the defendant." As they led Nora out, still ranting, I caught Travis's eye. For the first time, I saw real fear there. The verdict came faster than anyone expected. The jury had barely deliberated 2 hours. "We find in favor of the plaintiff," the foreman announced, "and recommend maximum punitive damages." The judge's final ruling was devastating. Full repayment of my medical trust, plus damages. The company would be dissolved, all assets frozen pending criminal investigation. Furthermore, Judge Martinez added, "I am referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution, particularly regarding the forged medical directives. Falsifying healthcare documents is a serious offence." As the courtroom emptied, Travis approached me. He looked thinner, desperate. "Jules," he said quietly, "please, can we talk? I need to explain." He looked thinner, desperate, and I let him squirm in that silence, just like I did in the hospital bed. "There's nothing to explain," I finally said. "You made your choices. Now you get to live with them." Outside, reporters clustered on the courthouse steps. Riley caught up with me before I reached them. "They're filing for bankruptcy," he said. "Mum's trying to protect what's left of her assets." "Are you okay?" I asked, "with all of this?" He smiled sadly. "Someone once told me that doing the right thing isn't always comfortable, but it's always right." I faced the reporters' cameras, standing straight despite my lingering fatigue. They wanted a statement about justice, about victory. Instead, I gave them the truth. "Sometimes," I said clearly, "the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own actions." Behind me, I heard Travis calling my name one last time. I didn't turn around. The restaurant hostess led me to the same table where the Lewis family had held their divorce party months ago. I'd chosen it deliberately. "Your other party is already here," she said, gesturing to Travis, who sat hunched over a glass of water. His designer suit had been replaced by department store clothing, his usual confident posture gone. "Juliana," he stood quickly, pulling out my chair. "Thank you for—" "Sit down, Travis." I remained standing. "This isn't a reconciliation." He sank back into his seat. A waiter approached, but I waved him away. "Why did you agree to meet?" Travis asked, his voice hoarse. I set my phone on the table, recording app open. "Because I want you to hear something." The recording played, Nora's voice from the divorce party. "Here's to her finally crawling out of our lives." Laughter, clinking glasses, Travis's own voice joining in with a cruel joke about my illness. "Remember that night?" I asked, stopping the playback. "You were sitting right here, celebrating my destruction with your girlfriend, while I was fighting to breathe in a hospital bed." He stared at his water glass. "Jules, I was wrong. I know that now. But we could start over." "Start over?" I laughed, and several nearby diners turned to look. "Let me tell you what starting over looks like, Travis. Your company's assets are being liquidated. Your mother's facing criminal charges for medical fraud. Your girlfriend rolled over on you the moment things got tough. How's that for a fresh start?" "I never meant—" To get caught? I pulled out a document and slid it across the table. Sign it. What is it? The transfer papers for your remaining investment accounts. Sign them, and I won't press criminal charges against you personally. His hands shook as he reached for the paper. This is everything I have left. No, everything you had left was my trust in you. This, I tapped the document. This is just money you stole from me while I was sick. He picked up his pen, then hesitated. What about us? All those years together? Were a lie? I raised my glass, mimicking Nora's toast from months ago. Here's to finally seeing the truth, to realizing that the man I married never existed. He was just a mask you wore until something better came along. Travis signed the papers, his signature barely legible. As he did, I noticed his phone light up with a text from Daria. Please stop calling me. She left you too, didn't she? I asked softly. The moment things got difficult. Funny how karma works. What am I supposed to do now? He whispered. I heard the construction company on 5th is hiring. Manual labour. Seems appropriate, don't you think? Building something with your own hands for once instead of stealing other people's work. I stood up, gathering the signed documents. For what it's worth, Travis, I don't hate you anymore. That would require you to still matter to me. Outside, Riley was waiting by his car. He'd insisted on being nearby, worried Travis might make a scene. How'd it go? He asked. He signed. It's done. I leaned against the car, suddenly exhausted. How's your mum? Still refusing to admit she did anything wrong. The DA offered her a plea deal, but... He shrugged. You know how she is. And you? Are you okay? He smiled sadly. Getting there. Started therapy last week. Turns out watching your family implode leaves some scars. Riley, I touched his arm. Thank you for doing the right thing, for telling the truth. Don't thank me. I should have spoken up sooner. He looked at me carefully. What about you? What's next? I thought about my house, standing proud and empty, about the medical trust, now restored and growing, about the strength slowly returning to my body. I walk alone, I said finally, not because I have to, but because I choose to, at least for now. You're not alone, he said quietly. You have friends, real ones. I know. I smiled. But this chapter of my life, it needs to end with just me, standing on my own feet, building something new. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a notification. The local business journal wanted to interview me about starting a foundation for victims of medical fraud. See? I showed Riley the email. Something new already. He hugged me goodbye, and I watched him drive away, the last good thing to come out of my connection to the Lewis family. Back home, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood in my kitchen, the one I'd designed in the house I'd fought for. Through the window, I could see the gardens starting to bloom again after winter. To earned peace, I whispered to the empty room, raising my glass. And to Karma, who takes her sweet time but never forgets. The setting sun painted my restored Victorian in shades of gold, and for the first time in months, I felt nothing but calm. The morning sun streams through my restored stained glass windows, casting colourful patterns across my kitchen floor. My coffee is still hot when my phone buzzes with a news alert. Former socialite Nora Lewis pleads guilty to medical fraud charges. I open the article, scanning quickly. Accepted plea deal, 6 months house arrest, substantial fines, reputation in shambles. Brinley burst through my front door without knocking, waving her phone. Did you see? I saw. I slide her a cup of coffee. Karma's finally cashing those checks. That's not even the best part, she grins. Guess who's working construction now? I drove past the new development on 5th, and there was Travis carrying lumber like a common mortal. The doorbell rings before I can respond. It's Serenity, the realtor from that fateful open house. She looks nervous. I'm not selling, I say before she can speak. Actually, she fidgets with her clipboard. I'm here because, well, I'm starting my own agency. After what happened with the Lewis family, I realized I needed to do things differently, more ethically. I was hoping you might consider being on my advisory board. I study her face, young, earnest, changed by what she witnessed. Come in, I say. Let's talk about it over coffee. As we discuss her plans, another visitor arrives, Riley, carrying a newspaper. You made the front page, he says, spreading it on my kitchen island. Local woman launches Medical Fraud Prevention Foundation. The photo shows me standing on the courthouse steps, looking stronger than I've felt in years. The headline reads, From Victim to Advocate, a story of justice served. How's therapy? I ask him. Good. Hard. He accepts a coffee from Brinley. Mum's not speaking to me, but that's probably healthy right now. And Travis? Still calling Daria, still getting blocked, still carrying lumber. He shakes his head. The mighty have fallen. My phone buzzes again. An email from Clark. Criminal investigation into Nora's country club friends reveals similar fraud patterns. They're calling you as an expert witness. Interested? Always, I type back. Serenity leans forward. Is it true what they're saying? That you knew all along? That you planned everything? Not everything, I admit, but I knew enough to protect myself. Sometimes the best revenge is just being 3 steps ahead. The doorbell rings again. This time, it's a delivery. Flowers from the DA's office, thanking me for my testimony. The card reads, Your case has opened the floodgates. More victims coming forward daily. You know what this means? Brinley picks up the card. You're not just their karma anymore. You're their legacy. I walk to my study, now converted into the Foundation's first office. The walls are lined with case files, each one a story like mine. On my desk sits a framed quote, Justice is not revenge, but restoration. The Foundation's first meeting is tonight, I tell them. We're reviewing cases of medical fraud victims who need legal support. Want to help? They all nod, and something warm spreads through my chest. This is what healing looks like, not just getting better, but making things better. My phone buzzes one last time, a text from an unknown number. I'm sorry. T. I delete it without responding. Some chapters don't need closure, they just need to end. You know what the strangest part is? I say to my friends gathered in my kitchen. I thought revenge would feel like winning, but this, helping others fight back, turning pain into purpose, this feels like something better. Like what? Riley asks. Like peace, real peace, not the fake kind I had when I was pretending everything was fine. Through my kitchen window, I can see new flowers blooming in my garden. Life moves in cycles, destruction, restoration, growth. I've lived through all 3. So, Brinley raises her coffee cup, what's next for the woman who brought down an empire? I smile, picking up the stack of case files. We build something better, something that lasts, something that helps people fight back. To fighting back, they chorus, raising their cups. I look around my kitchen at these people who chose truth over comfort, justice over ease. At the home I fought to keep, at the life I rebuilt from ashes. I don't believe in happy endings anymore, but I do believe in earned peace, and damn, mine took everything to win. Now it's time to help others win theirs. To fighting back, I agree, raising my cup, and to never underestimating the sick girl in the corner. She might just be taking notes.